would like to proudly and publicly proclaim that I am an atheist.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to a very special episode of the Atheist Experience. I am Russell Glasser. I am a host of the Atheist Experience and current president of the Atheist Community of Austin, and I wanted to welcome you guys to our special 20th anniversary show. To commemorate the time that we've all spent together, we have brought on a bunch of people, most of whom you see here, and some of whom might be stepping in for them later. The Atheist Community, or the Atheist Experience, has been running for a scarily long time now, and a lot of these people are past hosts and crew on the show, and so I want to go around having everybody introduce themselves. So let's see, from the left side of the screen, that left side of the screen, we've got Joe Zamecki. Hey, Joe, how are you?
Great to be here. And 20 years, been a great run, awesome show.
Yeah, well, why don't we, in addition to just telling who everybody is, why don't you say a little bit about how you got involved with the show, or you were there from the beginning, right?
Yes.
Tell us about the early days for a couple minutes.
The early days of the show?
Yeah.
Yeah, we did our first show, first episode, a pilot episode at Fur's Cafeteria at the North Cross Mall, which is mostly gone now. And that was a taped 30-minute show. We were all brand new to what we were doing, and it was a lot of fun. And
you filmed it in the cafeteria?
Yeah, they had a conference room.
Okay.
So we kind of got that room, and we had our meetings there once a month anyway, and so it was very good for the people who worked there. We brought them to business, but that first episode was a lot of fun, 30 minutes, taped real quick, and it's on YouTube still.
Wow. Did you use like a handheld camera, or did you bring in something bigger?
Somebody had a camera, and I believe it was a consumer-grade camera on a tripod, and it was transferred to some other format by the studio, the old ACAC studio downtown. But yeah, it was very easy by comparison to what y'all are doing here. Yeah, my goodness.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I think we've come a long way since then. What year would that have been?
97, in October of 97, I believe was.
Right. So, 20 years.
There you go.
Obviously,
And
I can do math.
The shows we did at the TV station, the Austin Community Access Center, and those were also very, very enjoyable. I started out there as a co-host.
Cool. Next, we have Ashley Perrien.
Yes.
And welcome back. You said that it's your first time setting foot in this studio.
Yes. I mean, I was around in early 2000s, mostly on the TV show and coming to the ACA meetings, stuff like that. That was still down at the bagel shop in town and the ACAC studios. Yeah, we got this building a couple of years ago, and I just haven't had a chance to actually make it down here to our new library and new home. So it's good to see it. It's a lot of fun. So.
What do you remember about your first time getting involved in the show and the early days that you were on it?
I was new to Austin at the time, and I remember it was just one morning I was flicking around TV channels Sunday morning, And Channel 2, nothing on. Channel 3, nothing on. Channel 4, nothing on. Channel 5, hang on a second, Channel 4 again. And they had the big Atheist Experience banner in the background. Had to go back a couple channels for that one, and wow, that's brave. But I watched a couple of episodes for a couple of weeks, and then they had the meetings down at the bagel shop, so I'm new in town, don't know a whole lot of people. I'll go down there and see what's all about. And that was when it was mostly Jeff and Martin hosting the show. It was a lot of fun. It was great fun to see people.
Yeah, cool. So I'm Russell Glasser. I also moved to Austin sometime around 2000, maybe late 99. And let's see, I moved with my first wife, and I had just been out of college for a few years. And being just out of college, being in college makes it really easy to have a social life. Being out of college and in a new city meant that you have to actually work to get a social life. And so I said, hey, why don't we figure out, using this newfangled internet thingy, if we have anything in our area that specifically caters to atheists in Austin. And so I looked it up, and I found out about these meetings at the bagel shop that you mentioned. I came in, and this was my first time walking in. I didn't know that there was a show, but we walked in, and there was this big table of people just sitting around chatting and laughing, and a lot of them were actually clustered around this guy, Jeff D., who kind of had a little bit of a mild rock star aura about him at the time, for real. Okay. And I went up to them and I said, is this the atheist group? And somebody said, no, that's them over there in that tiny table. But anyway, I came in, I found out about the show, and came in and started doing like camera work, eventually moved to producing, and then started co-hosting and also hosting later. Jeff.
Okay, so I'm apparently some kind of a rock star. But news to me.
Very low-key rock star.
I remember I was a co-worker. I was working here in Austin, and a coworker said to me, hey, there's this classified ad in the local liberal rag about these meetings that atheists are having. You're some kind of big atheist guy, right? So I went down and checked it out, and it was those early meetings at the Hot Jumbo Bagel Shop near downtown Austin. And at the time, it was basically people left over from the American Atheists crowd that used to be based here in Austin. A lot of old folks. Mm-hmm. And I remember Joe Zamecki was one of the first, the younger people that showed up there, and he had this exciting idea: let's do a public access show like the American Atheists used to do. And the reaction from the rest of the group was like, no, we can't. The Christian right is getting really uppity and violent right now. And they really seemed to think that if Christians got wind of the fact that we were meeting, let alone had a public access show, they'd all come charging in with machine guns and mow us down. And so after a few meetings, I decided that was way too furtive and afraid for me. So my friend Denis Loubet, who is now one of the co-hosts on the Nonprofits, and I started hanging out with the University Skeptical Society, which was a more general purpose skepticism-based group. We couldn't be members because we weren't university students. And it was because of some public debate that they hosted that I got invited to be a guest on the Atheist Experience show, which had, in my absence, they had gone ahead and done it. So kudos to Joe for continuing to push on that. And they had me back a couple of times, and then I believe, was it when you moved away, Joe? You moved out to the East Coast to work with American Atheist, right?
Right.
So I moved into Joe's co-host slot, and the rest, as they say, is history.
Let's see. So who were you hosting with at the beginning, Joe?
Well, Ray Blevins
Okay.
and
That's what I thought.
Don Rhodes occasionally helped us with hosting, and then a few others would come and go, but it was for the first year or so, it was me and Ray doing most of the hosting and co-hosting.
Okay. And then you co-hosted with Ray also.
Yes.
Until you took over the host slot.
Yes.
For a while.
Ray bowed out.
Okay. And Arlo Pignotti here.
Hi, I discovered, well, first I discovered American Atheist just as it transitioned. Those guys were transitioning into the atheist community of Austin, and I remember when I was coming to those meetings, people were talking about starting a show, and so...
What connection was there between the atheist community of Austin and American Atheists? Because I'm not sure, or I mean, was there, or just carryover members, basically?
Well, yes and no. I mean, for years, American Atheists tried to have a local group, a local atheist group in Austin. It never really took. And a part of the reason was...
We win.
Right, well, part of the reason was the lawsuits, the state church separation lawsuits, and the politics and the negative media that sometimes arose from that, which we understand, of course, but there was some more negativity than that. Anyway, some people didn't want to be a part of American Atheists. So when American Atheist announced that it was going to be moving to New Jersey, then it kind of opened up a whole lot of field of possibilities there for a local group. And almost immediately, one atheist got with American Atheists, and we kind of shared information about atheists living in the area to find more of us and let them know that a new local group that is actually not a part of American Atheists started up, and that was a popular, very popular idea.
So, sorry to interrupt.
Oh, no, that's fine. No, because my first impression of atheism and an atheist group was the American Atheists had an office, but it was just a building. And, Joe was there, man in the station, and, a lot of cool bumper stickers and books and stuff, but it wasn't a community. It was like one person at a time was there you could talk to, and that's cool. But when y'all started meeting, when you had Atheist Community of Boston had meetings at the bagel shop, that was a real community. And that was good for me because I was fresh out of high school, had, really no social life, especially not with adults. And I think I was probably the youngest person in the group. And so it was very developmental for me because I didn't have church or anything at all growing up, nothing that you could really call a community. And so this is really cool. And so I was just hanging out, every weekend, started going to the show every weekend. There's always something to do behind the scenes for the show. And I somehow mostly got involved with sound because I was doing electronic music at the time, and I just kind of felt comfortable with dealing with anything with sound. And sometimes they'd have me on the show, maybe a guest wouldn't show up or something, and I'd just go there and just have fun.
You brought little guests. I really wanted to talk about, you used to bring little guests, little
I think he's talking about holy paraphernalia. Maybe,
that too,
right?
but
I had a pet turtle, and because I was talking about evolution and happened to have a turtle with me, so yeah. But that was just one show. It wasn't like an ongoing theme or anything. But yeah, holy paraphernalia was a fun thing I was doing, and where I was just I had fun going into Christian shops and craziest things they have there. By holy paraphernalia, I mean like religious artifacts that are being sold by fundamentalist Christians usually. And so like an example would be a Jesus action figure that it's not a joke. This isn't a spoof. It's a real Jesus action figure made by Christians for Christian children. It have little loaves and fishes in the kung fu grip, and I still have it today. I mean, it never multiplied after all these years, but so anyway, there's like hundreds of little religious kits and things and pamphlets that I would just kind of showcase and show off. And so, this is just, it was really good for me because I used to be such a very shy, introverted person. And not only am I meeting people and atheists who I thought I was the only one when I first started having these thoughts that there's no God. And then to be on a show, this is just really good for me. It just got me out of my shell. And so
cool.
It was very important.
So the show today was set up by, I think, Mark and Vern and a couple of other people who are our full-time producers / engineers. I mean, not full time, but they are dedicated to setting that up, and they arranged to get all you guys together and set up the format of this show. And we're really excited to have this as sort of a celebration of all the effort that every one of us has put into the Atheist Experience. So I think they have a toast ready for us or something. Oh, here it comes. Yes, step right in, my good sir.
Okay.
Adorable.
I guess we have more to master. Your towel is on camera.
I feel like if Arlo was able to do the sound effects, we could have like a kazoo playing or something. Woo!
Golly.
All right, thank you.
And we've got digital confetti. It's always nice.
In case you're just listening to this as a podcast, we've got amazing state-of-the-art special effects.
Thank you, that's enough.
Thank you.
This little...
I was going to say, now I look like the Lush, but then I looked at what Arlo...
I didn't
This is
think
something I remember about the atheist community. We've never been very good drinkers.
That's right.
I actually don't
Remember that
story.
party where they ordered a keg and there was like essentially none of it got drunk?
So we haven't figured that part out.
I actually don't drink at all. I should have said when.
Oh, okay.
No, I'll take a sip. It's all right.
You would have thought that godless heathens would all be, really good at all the various sins, but apparently drinking is not one that at least the early crowd of the atheist community of Austin was into. But anyway, to 20 years.
20 years.
Alrighty.
20 años.
Hello.
Yay.
Yay.
Yeah.
I'll save this for my homies. Yeah.
So another thing that we have prepared for today is a clip. Are some clips that we are going to be playing throughout this show. So why don't you go ahead and roll the first one?
Hello and welcome to the Atheist Community of Austin. This is our first introductory show. My name is Joe Zamecki. I'm a member of the Atheist Community of Austin.
Hi, I'm Don Rhodes. I'm co-coordinator of the Atheist Community of Austin, and we're delighted to be here with you today.
I'm Mary Sue Osborne, and I'm a member of the board of directors of ACA and the social director.
What exactly is an atheist?
As an atheist, what drives you to, take the time out, do public access, spend your own money, lead this campaign? What kind of, is there joy from it? What's your ambition?
Yeah, I think it's horrible that the U.S. is out killing people because Christians have sabotaged the U.S. AIDS response, right? I think it's a horrible thing, and I think it's pointless suffering. And if I can somehow stop that by being here on the show and educating people as to this, because the media isn't covering it very well, then I feel like I've done a good thing and I've helped some people out. So that's one of the things that's motivating me.
I'm a pretty independent person, and it's been real hard getting that way, but I'm here and I'm glad. The only problem is that I've spent a lot of vulnerable years, and they've been real isolating and alienating from society, because society's so weird, okay? All I can do is try to catch a buzz and forget about it.
There you go.
That's all I can do.
This whole idea that anyone with a shred of morals in their fiber, right, could look at a film where someone is just being horribly tortured to death and smile and say, gee, wow, they did that for me. Isn't that awesome? No, it's not.
Howdy out there in TV land. This is Boss Ross, the happy atheist. Jesus the Nazarene was a man. Bunch of hooey. Jesus is the Son of God. They're confused as hell, if you pardon me for saying so that way.
I heard y'all speak about Satanism.
Because we don't believe in the devil either. And
but why are you bashing Christians and God, but yet?
Well, because I don't have in Satan we trust sitting in my dollar bills facing me every day. I don't have Satan is sitting on the corner there
sticking their Saint Bible in my face saying I'm going to heaven or whatever else if I don't change my ways.
Exactly, because we Satanists don't get in people's face like Christians do. Well, in part I'm up here because they said they never get any Satanists on the show.
Mm-hmm. Every human being has heard of God, and every human being has heard of Satan. And we all know where Satan came from. So why do you guys believe that Satan exists?
Wait a minute. That's her personal belief. Do not put Atheist Community of Austin anywhere near Satanists.
Right, but that's all the whole argument, though, is personal belief. I mean, you guys don't have proof that there is no God, and we don't have proof that there is a God, but we have to believe.
But go back to your original question. The difference between what we're doing and what, quote, the Christians are doing or whatever else, we're not telling you we have the answer, we have the only answer, and if you don't go our way, you're going to hell or whatever else. We are presenting the facts in a useful, interesting way.
And you can make your own judgment.
And we're leaving that judgment and those decisions up to you. We feel that the facts speak for themselves.
My name's Ray Blevins. The realtor, as soon as he found out it was an atheist group, is like, no, he wouldn't give us a price. He wouldn't tell us where the building was. He's like, I will not rent to an atheist. And so, yes, we do feel discriminated against.
Mr. David Kent?
Any group that tries to deny another group the right of expression is not worth my respect.
Living life just like a game that people play. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. Don't take it personally. Nobody can be hard sometimes. Separate the dancers from the dance, but we all don't see go. All you can change is how you treat the ebb and flow. And even so,
Arlo Pignotti.
That seems really good proof or evidence supporting that there are other planets, and it also shows that they are forming from natural processes.
My guest today is Vic Farrell.
Americans are scientifically illiterate. They just don't know how to analyze and question the junk, literally, that's being thrown at them.
How do you explain the world being created and so on?
We don't explain the world being created. Using the word created pre-assumes that there was some kind of creation.
Creative
force. So what do you mean?
Well, what I mean is, how did it become then?
Well, scientists are working on that.
Yeah.
Now, generally, I mean,
I didn't ask scientists. I asked you. How do you?
Well, is it my job? I don't know.
The scientists have provided.
How do you explain? You know, let me pick some random piece of physics out of the air, and ask you to explain that. I mean, so what? You act as if there's some requirement that we have an answer for that particular question. What if we just don't know? What if we just don't know, and how is that a problem?
Atheist experience. As friends of mine, tadpole cannibalism. Yes, thank you guys. Yes.
We're going to go on now. Going to go on to the next call. We thank you for calling, but in our eyes, reality is something objective and outside of your own brain. And so what I see as reality, what you see as reality, and what the guy in Sanitarium sees as reality, while they may be you may be seeing different things, there is an objective one out there.
Yeah, reality is that
we like
does
the
not
objective
change
one.
regardless of what your opinion of it is.
Exactly.
This week's guest, Jeff D.
Awfully startling news item here. Science finds God. If I die and there happens to be a God and I was way wrong, I will look at God and I will go, oops. And if that God is the kind of guy who is going to fry me in hell for exercising this free will you say I've got, then that's not a God.
Today's guest is Martin
Wagner. They were, of course, working from the Christian presupposition that we are the ultimate. Well, what is the basis for your presupposition that life can only have meaning if that meaning is externally imposed upon us by a supernatural third party. So who was doing the training pigeons to deliver missiles? Must be very small missiles.
Here is a graphic.
What is this?
Pilgrims flock to divine potato.
Today's guest, Russell Glasser.
I almost never hear anybody talking about reincarnation and saying, oh, in my past life I was a pathetic, trodden-on peasant. The only slight problem is that nobody has ever seen Hank or his butt.
Our guest today is Ashley Perrien.
They said that they would not take them to the hospital because, again, it was in God's hand. If God wanted them healed, he would do it. When I was young, I used to always listen to what they said in church and stuff like that, and I saw no reason to believe.
According to Ashcroft, civilized people, Muslims, Christians, and Jews, all understand that the source of freedom and human dignity is the Creator. Doctors in an Indian village say they're losing business to a holy man selling a divine urine cocktail.
Now, wait a minute. We don't have to believe that there was a guy named Jesus who said these words in order to criticize the people who do believe that there was a guy named Jesus, who ignore the fact that their holy book, which they think contains his words, says these words.
But when you take a verse out of context to support your position, then you're doing the same thing you blame the Christians for doing. Therefore, you can't believe in his prophecy.
We don't, but we do believe that there are Christians out there who say that this book is full of the direct words of God and that this book is a moral guide. And if those people say this book is a moral guide, but their figure that they are following says, but those mine enemies which would not that I should reign over them, bring them hither and slay them before me, you've got to take responsibility for the fact that your holy book says this.
It says that in a prophetic sense.
In a prophetic sense?
Yes, and if you don't believe that Jesus is coming back again, one day you will bow your knee before him and say that he's Lord.
And that's completely reprehensible. Excuse me, sir, are you an American? Are you aware that a little over 200 years ago, people moved from England to this country so we could stop having kings, so we could stop the tyranny of powerful individuals telling everybody else how they had to be and how they had to live, just because they were powerful?
Is that the reason you're an atheist? You don't want God to reign over you?
No, I'm telling you because I'm American, I don't recognize the power of kings. I do not recognize that might equals right, which seems to be ultimately what Christianity comes down to.
Well, what Christianity comes down to is that the God who created us has the authority and the sovereignty to do what he wants to do with us.
Why? What gives? Imagine for a moment a human scientist creates intelligent life in a laboratory, and then says, "Hey, you laboratory creation, you must now worship me. I have the right because I created you." You wouldn't agree with that. What's different if instead of a human scientist making a guy in a laboratory, it's a God creating human beings in a universe? What's the difference? It's still morally bankrupt. No being, no matter how powerful it is, has the right to exert its will to force other people to live a certain way. That's just wrong. It's fundamentally wrong. And the United States was founded on getting rid of the idea that kings have any kind of right to tell people what to do.
So what's
wrong with you?
What do you use as a source to? Who are you to say that God is wrong?
Our founding fathers said that might does not make right over 200 years ago.
Who are our founding
Do you think might does make right? Excuse me, sir. Do you think that just because some being is a whole lot more powerful than another, that powerful being automatically has the right to tell the lesser beings to worship it?
I am saying that...
No, answer my question, yes or no.
Now, see, you want to give me...
Sir, answer my question, yes or no. Does might make right?
God is right.
All right,
He's saying that if there is a God, he's wrong.
Yeah, if there is a God, he's wrong. That's correct. If there is a God, and that God says that because I'm so much more powerful than you, you have to do as I say, right? If there is such a being, that is an evil being.
That is not why God says that. God does not say, because I'm this, then you do what I say.
Then what is the
God says
justification?
that I love you. And as a response to my love, you ought to do what I say, and he gives us choices.
The love involving taking people that don't worship him and slaying them.
And you know, I like the analogy that dude gave, talking about a choice of roads that you go down.
Right.
Now, see, you chose to be an atheist. Now, if in the end of it all you're wrong, then you chose to go to hell. I choose to be a Christian.
Excuse me.
Because
I am a thinking being.
Exactly.
I live in a universe. Now, if a God made this universe and set it up so that if I, a thinking being, have to turn off my brain and start believing something just cause, right? Just because people tell me God loves me, I ought to believe in him. When there is not a scrap of evidence, there's not a scrap of evidence I can look at to show me that that being exists in the first place, but I'm supposed to believe him anyway. And if I don't, then there's this road that I go down by default that punishes me for eternity. Then the being that set up this whole situation is fundamentally evil.
Were you born an atheist?
Yes, all people are born atheists.
And I didn't ask you that to be argumentative or anything, but what I'm saying is that you made a choice.
Okay, we did.
I actually did, because even though all people are born atheists, because all people are born without even the idea of the concept of God, even though I was born that way, I was raised in a Methodist family, and I was indoctrinated with all these beliefs. But eventually I got over it.
Well, good for you. I just want y'all to know Jesus loves you in spite of you. Y'all take
In spite of that, okay.
And when you see him, you tell him one day Wayne said that you was wrong and you chose to go the wrong way.
Oh, I see. This is all about you scoring points with God. Okay, thank you.
Bye-bye.
You have a great week there, Wayne.
Yeah.
We do appreciate
Thanks, Wayne.
you.
Yeah, I enjoyed that. I enjoyed that,
It's
Jeff.
not your fault, Wayne. You were raised that way.
My co-host for today is Mary McManamy.
According to the Associated Press, only 1 in 5 high school seniors has a solid grasp of science, and only half know the basics. To be honest, I don't really know that I need an explanation. What does that mean for people who don't believe in anything, or if they're not sure, if let's say they're agnostics? I just don't believe that the government needs to be dictating anybody's belief or lack of belief. Scientists apparently have built a tiny computer from DNA.
And with us on the air today is Keryn Glasser.
Dealing with the end-of-life process.
Donna's going to talk to us today about memetics.
The idea of universal Darwinism is sort of taking the ideas of evolution out of evolutionary biology and seeing what else they apply to.
My co-host this week, Matt.
The laws of this nation weren't founded on the Ten Commandments. This nation wasn't founded on Christianity. God was explicitly voted out.
What do you know about the Bible? Other than what you've read.
Well, reading it kind of helps typically. We've got two special guests in the studio today, Ann Veerkamp and Tracie Harris.
There's hospitals full of, dying, malnourished babies that need love and families, but she's not going to touch one until God tells her this is what she needs to do. If we're talking about something for which we have zero evidence and zero knowledge and zero attribute, then really it's no different than talking about nothing.
Joining me this week's Jennifer Peoples.
I did come from a religious family. In fact, my father, prior to his death, was studying to become a Methodist minister. There's a final part of it which requires that the mohel take some wine in his mouth and then put his mouth on the infant's penis and suck the blood from that and then spit the wine and the blood in a receptacle.
Yes, you actually heard that
Yes.
right. This is Beth.
I eat meat. I don't think animals have the moral status of humans. How you would deal with the death now that you're an atheist versus a Christian, but that's the thing. I don't think the Christians, at least the ones who are very big on heaven, deal with it. They just put it off. They're like, I'm sad, this person's gone, and I'm going to put all that away, and I'll see them in heaven.
Linnea Glasser.
I try and find happiness in the truth.
For the first time, despite being involved in the show for longer than I have.
Almost, not quite.
Almost. John Iacoletti. Woo!
Thank you. It's good to...
Yes, our studio audience has to go nuts.
And all the infrastructure in the legal system is already there for marriage. It's just a matter of not discriminating. So in that respect, it's easy. You just stop caring what the genders of the people applying for the marriage license are.
With me today is Phil Session.
Hello, everybody. When I was a believer, even after I went, called myself spiritual but not religious, kind of leaving the actual Baptist name Christian behind and just going with that general spiritual route. This is before I actually progressed to non-belief in a deity at all. I still held on to that fear.
If you ever do find this guy, run away.
Because he kills
He
people.
kills lots and lots and lots of people. Run away.
Okay. I love that. Oh, actually, I guess we just think too hard on this show. That's our problem.
Yeah, we'll have to knock that off.
Darn
nasty habit.
Darn that thinking stuff, you know? It just kind of gets in the way of that faith thing. Hey, Christians, we don't hate you. We just think you're wrong.
Wow.
A lot of memories there.
Yeah. Some of those memories aren't too clear for me. Some of them maybe you would like to forget. But that was a lot of amazing stuff that they put together. And also, especially, seeing our love rings for the first time in years and years and years. That was a thing. That was our amazing special effects then. And now we have virtual. Yes, every single show
for the longest time.
Plus the tagline, "We don't hate you. We just think you're wrong." Which I don't know. In retrospect, what do you guys think about that?
I still have a pin of it that Jeff made up on my wall at work. So
I think that was fine. That summed up our position. We're not actually there to attack Christians or say that they are terrible. We're there to help them.
Yeah.
Because we consider them, equally worthy human beings, and we don't care for the crap that they've been indoctrinated in.
All right. Well, we have a few other people waiting to trade in later, but right now we have an additional special guest who's on the phone right now. Couldn't make it in person right now or today, but Ray Blevins, are you there?
Yes, I am. Hey,
Ray.
Hey, Ray.
Good to hear from you again.
Well, thank you so much, man. That was quite a treat. And I'm looking forward to watching the video tomorrow. See all the like I said, all I got was the audio there, but it was quite the trip down memory lane there. Yes, it's hard to believe 20 years went by.
So, Ray, tell us something you remember about the very beginning of the show and your early days hosting.
Kellen Von Hauser was one in the control room. Do you guys hear from her anymore?
I haven't heard from her in a long time myself, but in fact, I don't think I ever met her. She was the founder of the group, though, right?
Yeah, she was one of the original. Me too. Yeah, I was on camera, and she was in the control booth. She was actually the producer, and. So no, I was just wondering, and I'm trying to think. I can't think of anything else right offhand. But it was quite the. I remember I liked doing Sunday morning, because that put us up against all the other religious shows. But I hear the Access people ended up bumping you guys after I left. So
Well, as a matter of fact, I mean, you can't see where we are now, but we haven't been in the public access studio for a few years. I
read that online, yeah.
Yeah, we have the ACA Free Thought Library, and it's basically our own studio, which is great because if you guys remember, back when we had the public access studio, like we'd do a show, we'd set up for a couple of hours, and then for the rest of the week, other people would be messing around with all the settings, right?
Sure. Right.
Yeah. How many of you guys were involved in the production of the show besides being on camera, like for a significant amount of time?
Not me, practically at all.
Well, Joe Zamecki, is he there?
Yeah, I'm here. How's it going, Ray?
Said not me.
Joe, Joe was there at the beginning, and me and him, and like I said, there was the two of us on camera there to start with, and he definitely helped out quite a bit there, and I was just the only one brave enough to agree to be on camera, and we had a small. There was only about 20 of us, and the group, Atheist Community Austin there to start off with. And so we're only talking like 5 or 6 people at the TV show. and to start off with, and just that first few weeks there and all that, it was Joe and I and Kellen there, basically, and then, people would float in and out and help. And, Austin Access at that time, was all still it was analog. So, you had to do all the tapes and all that. It's all digital now, so and I like the way you guys, the new look and everything else there. I did watch a few episodes. It's so funny. The same old arguments are still coming out there. You guys are still battling the same old. I just got tired of arguing with the Christians there, but I'm so glad that you guys kept it going.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. Now, we saw a clip of the very first episode, which was basically pre-taped in the conference room of First Cafeteria. What happened from there? How long did it take you? Did you immediately, was your second episode in the public access studio or what?
Yeah, right from day one. There was some talk about whether or not to get, to do the live call-in. And they was worried about nobody would call. It's like, no, you stick an atheist out there and a number, they're going to call. And it looks like you guys get all these Christians calling you all the time, just like they used to. Yeah. They loved arguing their point, even though how stupid their point is. So like I said, so I'm just listening to audio. If you don't mind, Jeff D's there, Joe Zamecki, who else is there?
Yeah, it's so Joe Zamecki, Ashley Perrien, me, Russell Glasser, Jeff D, and Arlo Pignotti. And we have three other people who are stepping in a little bit later, pretty soon.
Oh, okay. So Jeff D was on time. I thought I heard Jeff D there. Okay, that's all right. No,
yes, Jeff D, right next to me.
Okay, I missed that. So that's so great that you guys kept it all together after all 20 years. As you see, I'm up here in Indiana. I'll definitely get back there soon. I'll definitely let you know when I get back. I miss Austin. Austin was nice, but I'm now living in a small little town in Indiana with less than 2,000 people, and it's a nice, quiet little town. It's nothing like Austin.
All right. Well, it's real nice to hear from you, Joe, and Ray. Sorry, Ray. And thank you so much for calling in.
Yeah, like I said, I'm looking forward to seeing the tape there and watching the show there tomorrow. And I will try to call again in the future there, see if we can get through.
Right. So from our point of view, this will air tomorrow immediately after the Atheist Experience. But if you are living in the world of tomorrow, you just saw the episode of the Atheist Experience that we taped.
I'm glad to know you're okay, Ray, because the other day I found your business card, and I thought, oh yeah, maybe I'll contact Ray. And I got a closer look at it. It was just Ray and no contact information. That cracks me up. I love that.
That's a great card.
Yeah, and that is so funny that you got that. Yeah, I don't have any more of those. Thanks. And those were definitely some good years. And I had a great time in Austin. Dave Boone and the Troublemakers. I miss Joe and all you guys. Yeah, and well, keep up the great work. And I'll be heading down there. Actually, I'll be in Austin here soon. As a matter of fact, I'll get hold of you guys and come by and see y'all in person.
Okay. Well, we'll see you then.
We missed you too, Ray.
All right,
yeah, looking forward to that.
All right. Thanks a lot.
Bye, Ray.
Bye-bye.
Oh, wait.
No, before. Okay. Bye, Ray. I just wanted to chime in.
Yeah.
You asked about us being involved in the technical end, and a bunch of us said no. But in the early days, when we started to set up for a show, we had to go around and manually adjust all the lights at the light level,
I
and
remember.
everybody was involved in that.
Yeah.
I mean, anybody who could move a slider or reach up and change the position of a camera of a light.
There was a great big
was
ladder
in.
on wheels that would haul around.
Oh my gosh, what a nightmare!
Put on gloves.
And we had kids running the cameras.
Yeah.
Before the days of the electric cameras that they control from the studio room, it was
right.
We had kids out there controlling the cameras.
So Ray was right when he was saying that we were involved in
in
the technical end. We totally were in those early days.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we had my kid who was not born yet and is now 15.
Yeah.
I only let myself get just involved enough to where no one would think to ask me to be producing, because that's something to be avoided.
Yeah, and I did produce for a while.
Yeah.
And, man, I learned stuff about camera switching and special effects and lighting and editing, which is the worst thing in the world, which I have now forgotten because I haven't done any of that for years and years. Do any of you guys have favorite callers that or favorite moments on the show that didn't? Excuse me. The celebration continues. So we've had some champagne, and we also
walked out in front of the camera. So
showing it to us is not good TV.
And
Get
careful about the
closer.
tiltage.
Yeah, that level of tilt is fine. Closer. Keep going.
There you
go.
Cake is not
delicious.
a lie. Nice. That's an actual cake.
Yep. Man, speaking of old memories, Portal.
And
there's more of our state-of-the-art special effects.
So we can have digital confetti, but we can't have love rings anymore.
All of you for cake?
Sure.
Heck yeah.
Do any of you guys have any particular moments on the show that weren't featured in that clip just now that you'd like to bring up?
I guess I remember it because it was a live show. It usually went off fairly well. Sometimes mic problems,
for a live
things
show.
like that. Yeah, for a live show.
Yeah, not because.
In Austin, in
considered.
a public access channel, it went off fairly well. But I do remember one time that there was a bad mic. I can't remember who it was. But after the show was actually on for a few minutes, I think it was Ray or somebody was crawling around behind us, unplugging mics and plugging in a new cable, trying to figure out which one of us was not working. And it's just, that was a little disconcerting to be hosting a show. And we're setting up mics now.
I remember, I think more than one time, we would start a show and be getting into it far enough to where we're ready to take callers, and then someone just walks in and says, "Oh, we're not on the air. We haven't been on the air for whatever reason."
That happened.
Yeah. And it's kind of it's hard to do it all again.
Or the dreaded no callers today.
Yeah.
It's like
crickets.
That's what the show is about, but we'll try to carry it.
Right.
40 minutes of content.
Which is terrible because, Jeff, you and I were basically involved in the launch of the nonprofits, which is deliberately a change of pace from the Atheist Experience and meant to be a show with no callers. And we can only make that work by a lot of prep time before the show. It's gotten to be less prep time now that we're in a groove.
We've gotten better at just winging it.
Right, but back then...
That's what that show was about. So you're ready for it. It's not a surprise.
Yeah.
If somebody, if Mark walked in at the beginning of the show and said, "No, guys, you can't ad-lib today. Our ad-libbing circuits are out.
Yep.
You're just going to have to...
Everything is on a teleprompter, and we have about 20 minutes worth of dialogue for you.
We'd be pulling your hair out.
So especially if you'd get 15 minutes in and you'd be like, all right, well, we don't have much prepared today, so I guess we're going to turn to callers to make the show entertaining. Oh, sorry, the phones are out.
We have had episodes of the nonprofits where, the streaming wasn't working for the first few minutes.
That's right.
Got lost. But
it was the early 2000s.
I think in essentially every case that was recorded, if not sent out. So I don't think we've lost stuff from what was posted. But it's a different world.
Right.
the audio world.
In a few words, having taken some time to think about your early days and having seen all those clips, what would you say is the the reason for the atheist experience's existence? And I'm sure you've been asked this by callers before, but what strikes you as important about what the show is and what it's for? Anyone want to volunteer?
I mean, it's intrinsically fun, I think.
Yeah.
It's outreach. That's the first thing that comes to my mind. I mean, even if almost all the callers were there to argue with us,
those were the days.
There's all kinds of people viewing that, I think, who agreed with us and felt less alone.
And it, on a personal level, it formed a major, maybe not the backbone, but a major element of our community, because it was this big project that a lot of people in the group were involved in, and then there were gatherings after, and then there were the meetings where we would talk about, regular meetings where we would talk about what had been said, and
Jeff, your mic is out.
My mic is out now. That has
perfect.
That's been an issue on and off all along.
A problem for
Which
decades.
is in the same position it's been.
Right. Also, speaking
Not
of
a
technical
clue.
problems, I dropped my headphones, but I'll pick them up later because
Not
there's
a
nothing
clue
to
what
hear
could
right
possibly be happening. Sorry.
now. Here, you want to hold mine?
Yeah, I was going to say, just use mine until they...
Or we could go to the next clip.
Go to the next clip.
All right. So, I mean, we've hinted now that there have been times when the show hasn't gone absolutely smoothly or as intended.
Oh,
so
and I'll be taken off during this clip. Probably this is the time. I think this is the time.
This might
say
be the
goodbye.
time.
Goodbye, everybody.
Okay.
I understand they need these chairs for other guests to come in, other people from the show, so everybody can hear me and Dennis and Russell on the nonprofits.
Yeah.
Bye, everybody.
Every first and third Wednesday of the month.
Yeah, and I'll say goodbye as well. I need to be headed out. But this is a beautiful studio, guys. It's the first time I've seen it. And, I always wanted to thank you, Ashley, for the only time when I stopped going to shows, because I was in Latvia where I met my wife, and Ashley was so kind as to send me CDs of the show, because this is back when there was dial-up and it was expensive and there was no way to keep watching the show. And Ashley was physically sending me CDs in the mail internationally. And so I really appreciate that, of the nonprofits and atheist experience. And so that was awesome. That was a real treat for me.
Somebody should invent some kind of streaming service so that you don't have to do that anymore.
This is well before those days.
All right.
All right, I'm going to eat cake now. Thank you.
We're having cake passed out, but also in the meantime, let's see another clip. Wait, Joe.
What?
Are you okay? At least one of you can stick around. We've got more room.
We'll both say goodbye. One of us may very well be here in a few minutes still.
Yes, after you fight to the death.
Exactly.
I'd love to be a part of the studio audience, too.
Okay.
For some of this.
If you have a metal fork, I will take that.
Okay.
So I can win the duel.
All right. Well, then, in that case, thank you both for coming.
Fork, please. Thank you.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Start the clip.
Start the clip.
Okay, so to turn down your stream in the background and they like it if you get to your point quickly.
4, 3, 2, 1, we're on.
Yeah,
It's
we're on
showtime.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to what I can almost guarantee is going to be the worst episode of the Atheist Experience ever.
Mic's off.
My mic's off. That's even better. What? It's just broken? Yes, there's no sound. What? Oh, is there sound now? Hello, can you hear me? Hello, hello, check, testing, 1, 2, 3. Okay, can you guys in the chat room hear me? Because you are going to have to be heavily involved today. They're still yelling no sound. Okay, I'm still talking. Blah, 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 blah. Turn up the fucking... Yes, I can see you bitching at me in the chat room. Can you guys hear me now? You guys can hear me now. And if you think that that last few minutes was painful, wait till you see the rest of the show. Because today, we've got the show from hell. We've got the ultimate Murphy's Law to end all shows.
As you can see, we do have a telephone number here for you folks to call and ask us questions and possibly debate us. And I understand we have one caller on the line here, and we'd like to try this. We're new at this, so bear with us if we get this wrong. Can we go ahead and try to get the caller on? We are trying right now.
Go ahead, Colin.
So, caller, stay on there. We're trying to get to you.
I believe in miracles.
Yeah, Mark's been taking calls.
Should I be talking to people like if I don't know?
Yeah, and the other thing is that, I mean, come on, I can see it right from here on the frickin' monitor. Look at the background.
Yeah.
How absolutely incompetent do you have to be to actually get the back? Oh, I can't see it when I turn around. Obviously, we got blue screen. What is going on? Have we done a mic check or anything? Because I see all the calls lit up. Hello? I don't get any answers now. I bet I could pick some Yahoo from the chat room do a better job than what you guys are doing in here. There's like 30 freaking atheist groups that would love to have me come do their TV show, and I got to come in here and deal with this crap every week. It's always broken. You guys, when are we going live? Holy shit, we're live! April Fools.
I love Satan too.
We are not Satanists, sir. We don't believe in him either.
Oh.
Yeah, he doesn't exist either.
Wait. Oh. No Satan?
Yeah. No, not as far as we can tell, no.
Satan rules!
Yeah.
Without actually proving it. Yeah. And despite being a prank caller, that was actually a good call.
Difficulties today. We are live. Today is January 30th, 2011, and with me here today is Don Baker.
I'm way too here, apparently.
ACA has weekly meetings. Hey, there's like something right there. Let me push play. I can't find it. Oh, I shouldn't have done that.
We're vanished. I think that was the self-destruct button, Matt.
All right. Just don't push that button.
Okay.
So, John in South Carolina, how are you doing?
Hey, Russell, you gotten any pussy lately, you fucking poon hound?
Whoa. Okay, well, we have some very well-educated and smart callers today, and I hope we talk to them.
And it's one that we've used in response to Pascal's wager, which is, wow, where did that light come from? God?
Okay.
Is that you? If so, could you do something more than flip a light switch? Because that's pretty freaking lame.
It's actually not unattractive. It's just very glowy.
Well, I guess we're on.
I'm going with an inner light.
Sorry, guys. I totally screwed up the introduction.
It's okay. It's live television.
This is live television. Let me hand this over to your host, Jeff D. Take it away, Jeff.
Hi, folks. Ray, can we get the graphics on the screen? Good morning.
Working on that right now.
Welcome to the Atheist Experience. We're live January 23, 2000. And this show is brought to you by the Atheist Community of Austin.
Give me 1 second.
What's up?
Ray, you have to put the on the switcher. That'll put the graphics on the air.
This is Ray's second week in the control room, so we're...
All right, now
Still
back
going.
up.
Yay.
Page down. Or page down on the PG.
Whoa, what's that?
Hello.
Your cable
There you go.
TV is experiencing difficulties. Please do not panic. Resist the temptation to read loved ones. Do not attempt sexual relations, as years of TV radiation have left your genitals withered and useless.
Well, I'll be damned.
This is a live call-in show, usually broadcast from the public access studio in Austin, Texas, but this is a special episode streaming from the ACA's free library.
I am atheist myself, but I can't agree with you, man. Like I think.
About what? I mean, obviously you agree with me about one thing. So where are we not
I agree
seeing?
with you about the David Hughes point. That's probably the first true thing I've ever heard you say. But
So you're an atheist, and the only thing you agree with me about is the Hume quote from earlier.
No, that's the first true thing you've ever said.
Oh, it's the first true thing I've ever said.
Yeah. Yeah.
How much longer before this turns into a prank call, or are you actually just done? I mean,
No.
if we disagree...
No. There's no prank call. I just think you're a fucking idiot.
Okay. Do you have a good reason for that? You hung up on me. That's the best prank call ever.
Hello.
Hello, you're on.
Oh, yes. Would you guys agree that you're a fat piece of shit, man?
You done?
Yeah, he hung up. Did I drop him? Okay. Yeah. All right.
The
so,
long, drawn-out death rattle of a complete idiot.
Yeah.
Okay.
A 16-year-old gamer who hangs out in his mom's basement.
Oh, is that who that is?
Yeah. Yeah.
Nothing wrong with being a gamer.
No, nothing wrong with being a gamer. But, you know, when you're 16 and you're an idiot. Yeah.
Yeah.
You really need to get some hobbies.
I found that due to the notion that waiting for marriage being a sin makes it just that much easier to have anal.
Let's go with this for like a minute. Okay, so what you're saying then is that if somebody says you can't have like penile vaginal sex until marriage, that there's other outlets that come forward like that. It's that the Catholic Girls Are Wild model, right? Like because they're doing all these things, and no pun intended. And so what you're saying is it leads to more creative sex, and that seems like a good thing. Is that a fair framing?
I can't imagine that's what he's saying. No, absolutely, because the whole concept of Virgin Mary and stuff, and making it that much easier to not do it in the vagina and just go in the butt.
Right.
And it's just that much better.
And let me tell you, there's probably a lot of people that are with you on this. But I'm going to say, just to throw this out here, and this may be difficult to believe, because you were talking about high school level, and so I'm going to make maybe an incorrect assumption that you're kind of young. But believe it or not, there are some people who are not into that. I know it's...
You're crazy.
I know it's tough.
No, that's a lie. That's a lie. No, that's actually a lie.
I'm not sure Jake's a real caller.
I'm not sure either.
Just saying.
But I do appreciate the laugh, Jake.
Jake has too much free time on his idle hands.
You did get on the show, so feel free to tell your friends. Thanks.
So y'all don't believe in God, so y'all don't believe in anything.
No, that's not true.
No. Well, God's everything, so if you don't believe in Him, then you believe in nothing.
Oh, okay, so you're defining God as everything.
Well, God made everything. Like, how can you walk outside and look at the trees in the sky and be like, there's no God? The Big Bang didn't make the trees. Okay, well, so you don't see God in anything. You don't see God out in the world. Everything's designed for us. Banana's designed for us. It fits in the hand. It fits in your mouth.
It fits in your butt. Do you think
Not
that's
in mine, maybe in yours.
Do you think that was the intended purpose? Do you realize that the bananas that you eat, the bananas that you're looking at, are actually cultivated plants created by humans that don't exist in the wild? They can't reproduce on their own? Do you realize that? God didn't make the bananas you eat. We did.
Whatever. Oh, so you can make a banana appear in your hand right this minute?
No. But I can make something that looks like a banana appear in my hand.
See, you're just because y'all want to sin all the time.
That's it. You got it.
Pretty much. I'm a big fan of sin, I have to tell you.
We just decided this whole sin thing, it's for us, so pshaw.
Well, okay. At least you're honest about it, so go and sin. I'm starting to get hungry talking about the...
Bye.
Woo! That was a fun one.
I love it. Go and sin some more. That's going to be my end.
Yep.
Go ye therefore unto all the world and preach the bananas.
I have proof and evidence that Matt Dillon is a fat piece of
is going to hell.
Amazing.
Oh, and we thought he was going to talk about diamonds being produced by the Great Flood.
Right. So he's a different kind of idiot.
We're back.
Okay. Well, I'm told that we are audible now, and the chat room can confirm, maybe. But let's see. Oh, well, I see video, but we're not in it. We're just pitch black.
But our names are there. And we're going to do some flying spaghetti monster juju to keep the video stream up.
Oh, we're back.
Too funny.
Yes, no, this is really us. So I want to introduce all the people who have magically appeared in some of the seats. But first, I really want to contextualize one of those last few videos. That caller, Eve, was Beth, who later became Matt's wife. And she and I worked out that call in advance.
Oh, did you?
So we had all met, and I thought it would be hilarious. And before you jump on me for this was before we got tons of prank callers on the show. So in a way, I regret setting up an early prank call because it kind of opened the floodgates to people thinking that it would be funny to do the same thing.
We've
maybe
had prank calls for a long time.
But you got to admit that was pretty funny. Like rewind it and watch my
She was
face.
doing apologetic, all in a row. Yeah. Boom, 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 boom.
Right.
Look at the trees.
Yeah. But anyway, so we've still got Ashley Perrien with us, but we also have a number of people, a couple of whom are still regular. First we have Tracie Harris.
Hey, great to be here.
Tracie, now you were co-host for a really long time, and now you are a host.
Right.
Which basically means almost no change, but you get to control the phones.
Yes. Yeah, I think I appear a little bit more often, but yeah.
So tell me about how you came to be involved with the show and some things that you remember, maybe.
Oh, gosh.
Don't mean to put you on the spot.
No, I used to watch the show, and then I started calling the show. And then...
Remember.
Yeah, I called
I talked
when
to
Don...
you, and I said, hey, you're awesome.
Martin.
We should come down and meet us.
You did. You invited dinners.
Yeah, I take full credit.
Well, I had been working on the cartoon, the Atheist Eve cartoon, and then I brought several prototypes of that to the dinner and passed them around, and people gave me positive feedback, and then later ACA asked if they could host the strip on the site. So all of the Atheist Eves that have ever been done, it's not being done anymore, but they used to be on the site. I don't know if they're still there. They were on the old site, but I don't know if they made it to the renovation.
I think so.
But, you think they might? I don't know. I haven't checked, actually. And so then I guess I got pushed a little bit, like, why don't you join? Why don't you? Like, I'm not really a big joiner, but I started coming to more of the events and felt like I should probably just go ahead and slap down my $30 and become a member. And so I did that, and then I was invited to come and participate on the show. And I was a little bit hesitant, and I think recommended maybe I should appear with somebody else, and that would make me feel better. And so we had a guest on along with me for the first time I was on. And then after that, I think you came up to me and you were like, we have you on the schedule now. And I was like, oh, okay. And that's how I ended up on the show. Special.
Got you roped in good.
Yeah, it was very bang, bang, bang. And I was just like, okay. And as far as, special moments, some of the recent ones, I guess, like where we didn't have any phones at all when we had a guest on, an author who had written a book on, I guess it was on some aspect of hallucination. He was there to talk about hallucinations, but had written on something else, and we discussed that. But I was glad to have a guest on because we had 0 calls the entire show, and this was recent. So it was very cool to have the guest, I guess. That happened. Yeah. And the only other thing that comes to mind that was like, oh, that was interesting was the call about where the person wanted to justify child rape with saying that children are corrupt and evil, and that ended up hitting Memesville, and I carry that to the grave at this point because it will never die, I think.
And I think going along with the theme of what the clip that we just watched, when somebody comes on the show, calls in and says something just really outrageously awful, it's very difficult to know if they're serious or not, and that impacts how you deal with the call, because if you think it might just be somebody trying to get a rise out of you, you don't necessarily want to give it to them. But if somebody is for real saying child rape is fine, or whatever they're saying,
Or the children are somehow responsible, which was horrible,
then you sure as hell should be outraged.
Yeah.
So
I think it was Matt's reaction is actually what caused the headlines. It was Matt, called the person a piece of shit and hung up on the call, and then that ended up on, I think it was, I want to say it was on HuffPo and a couple other places. And then after that, people started sending me a meme of myself and something I had said on the call, and
which is weird, right? when you get memes.
I mean, at first I was just like, yeah, that's cute, thank you for sending, and then you get like 20 in a day, and you're like, okay, thank you for sending again. And I mean, nobody knows that anyone's sending it, and then then something happens and someone finds it and they put it on Reddit like a year later, and then you start getting it again, and you're like, I know there's a meme. so you don't have to send me the memes anymore. FYI, I've seen it and I remember the quote and it's fine. No, that's sufficient.
Let's see. So when I meet people for the first time and they have seen me on the show, which is still often a surreal experience, especially if I'm far from home or something. But one of the things that comes up from time to time is, hey, where's your sister?
Yeah, people ask about Keryn.
She was known as Keryn Glasser, although some years have passed and she's now Keryn Hawthorne. And I sort of clumsily convinced her to hurry down to the studio today and show up. How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing good. We still see all the time, by the way. It's just you guys who don't see each other.
Yeah, we miss her. We miss her.
What you been up to?
Well, I got married. I'm a stay-at-home mom of 2 boys, a spirited 4-year-old and a really delightful 15-month-old.
They are both full. Can confirm.
And that's my life.
You, I mean, you are one of the most enthusiastic moms I've ever seen, personally.
Thank you.
Are your kids old enough to be like they've? I mean, certainly the 15-month-old is not thinking about it yet, but
no, it's. I mean, I hate to say it. When I was doing the show, I had a lot of enthusiasm, and then eventually I just kind of got burned out on the show. And ever since I stopped doing it, I just don't spend a lot of time getting into arguments about God, and that includes. I don't really want to bring the subject up with my kids until I have to.
I remember I jumped in and volunteered and said, I'll indoctrinate your kids for you.
I was like, do it. I'll just shuffle that over to you. You can have it. I mean, it's come up a little bit. I had started my older son in a preschool last year that turned out to be a very religious preschool. Mm-hmm. They prayed before meals, and they made a really big deal out of Christmas and Easter. And it was a little awkward. Mm-hmm. I wasn't entirely comfortable with it. And, I try to remember as an adult, I had these kinds of religious experiences when I was a child, and it didn't scar me for the rest of my life. It didn't have a negative influence on how I turned out. And I had discussions with other people, including Mom, who had similar experiences growing up and being involved in Rainbow Girls, or and so I kept him at that preschool until the year ended, and then I switched him to a different preschool. But he'd come home singing prayers about God.
Wow.
I am also still actively practicing Judaism, and I take my boys...
Very secular Judaism.
Very secular Judaism. Although, I mean, I am actually taking them to a conservative congregation now instead of a reform one, but that's just because that's where all of their friends ended up, so...
Okay.
It's a nice place, and it is for the most part just a fun social experience for him.
Right.
And once in a while, they start singing in English about God or something, and Bailey will bring it up, and I'll usually at this point just deflect it.
Well, again, you can send him my way
I will
anytime.
do
I'll
that.
tell him the whole deal. But you don't get in any. I mean, I know you haven't become a believer.
No.
You don't get in any or feel particularly conflicted when the rabbi. See, okay, I'm the worst Jew. We have
that guy that stands up there. Yeah.
You and I, that's the clip to take out of context. You and I were both raised secular Jewish. I had some kind of nostalgic feelings long enough to stick it out for a while in college, but then basically came to your temple a couple of times in later years and was like, well, even this tiny bit of God stuff is more than I want. What do you?
It's just a strong community with a common heritage. I don't know. I mean, I always explain to people Judaism to me is more my ethnicity than my faith. Atheism is my philosophy, is my ethnicity.
Right.
So it's like being connected to my heritage. And I mean, it has a very strong culture and even like a social culture that goes along with it. You could feel connected to silly things that just make you feel part of a family, like making Jewish jokes on the Daily Show. That's
true. I did have very warm feelings for Jon Stewart doing his old man Jewish voice.
Yes, very much.
So how did you get involved with the show, and do you remember any particularly enjoyable moments from your time on it? Do you even remember that you were?
I do. I was on the show for 4 years. I remember being in college and my older brother talking glowingly about this ACA group that he'd gotten into and this TV show that he was doing, and it wasn't streaming on the internet way back then.
That's right. Yeah.
But he told me, I guess you told me when it was on, and so a couple times while I was still living in Arizona, I called into the show, just to say hi, and then I maybe came to visit you once, and you had me on as a guest. And then after I moved here, you sucked me in.
Okay.
Well, I have a fond memory of you. You more than anybody else took on the topic of death and grieving, and I think you did a really good job with that, and answered a lot of great calls, and I appreciate your contribution for that.
Thank you.
I also... What? Oh, cool. I also remember, like, the show that you and I did together that I remember most specifically was that you and I decided to just do a show about abortion, which was normally something that we didn't touch because we were like... most atheists consider themselves pro-choice, but it's also something that's a real hot button to the few people who don't feel the same way, and so we don't take an official position in the atheist community of Austin. But I think Tracie has always said, we're not here to represent all atheists. We've just got our opinions. And we were like, you and I have very strong opinions about that topic. And we just decided to do a whole presentation on it. And it went way better than I expected, which you can hunt down on YouTube.
I had a good time doing the show. I think probably one of my favorite shows, besides talking about death and dying, was the one where I also talked about the Terry Schiavo case, which was current news at the time, and I talked about the importance of getting advance directives.
Right.
If you've got loved ones around you who are not your legal next of kin, and then legal next of kin who don't necessarily subscribe to your beliefs and your choices.
Yeah, and of course you have a master's degree in social work, so these were major topics for you professionally as well as
yeah.
personally.
Yeah, and I got to tell you, I mean, I just always received such great feedback from being on the show. There's actually a woman who I used to work with in hospice who now works at my grocery store, and every time she just glows over, you know. And she was atheist, and her daughter was going through being interested in, going through, I guess, losing her faith, becoming an atheist. And
not a phase, we can say with hindsight?
Not a phase, yes. Not a phase we can say in hindsight. And she really just raved about how the show, you know, as someone who was a theist and had family going through this, learned to appreciate that you can be an atheist and still be a good person. And it opened her up to being able to accept her daughter for who she was.
Oh, that's great.
And it's a wonderful, wonderful type of feedback to get. And also, I mean, when I was working in hospice, I was on the show at the time, and, you know, occasionally my clients, my patients would see me on the show, which can get a little awkward because, you know, these are people who are facing the end of their lives, and religion and spirituality can be a very big, usually is a very big issue, especially at that time. And I'd even have a lot of support from my patients. I'd occasionally have patients who were atheist or agnostic, and they would share their appreciation for.
Yeah, well, that's really nice. So we also have someone who is still a regular on the show, Don Baker.
Yeah, hey.
Welcome.
Knocking around.
Thanks for joining us.
Thanks.
Tell us a little bit about your background with being on.
Oh, you know, I came to Austin in '97 and then started looking around for community, you know, after college and grad school, actually, and you know, found the group, and they were doing these lecture things, and I ended up doing a lecture or two, and I think they said, oh, this guy's got something to say. He's not a complete embarrassment. We'll stick him on the TV show. And so you guys saw a little clip where I was talking about memetics, which was a big thing for me at the time, and got started and tried to have a different topic every week, and I've done, you know, hundreds of them by now, and so it's been fun. It's been a good First Amendment thing. And, you know, you talked about the show earlier and why do we do it? And I think, you know, one of the things that this show does that you don't see very often is having a real dialogue between theists and atheists about religion, because they don't get to have that real dialogue in their forums. And, you know, they have to take the message, the Sunday school or whatever, and any questions are poo-pooed and these sorts of things. And we actually have an honest dialogue about it. And I think that's really one of the big things the show does.
Yeah. I think you're right, because I see a lot of atheists on YouTube these days, and many of them are doing fine jobs, but what I notice that we have that they don't necessarily have is that usually it is one or occasionally two talking heads, just having some pre-written thing that they want to say, some kind of rant that they want to deliver, and just saying their thing and telling people what other people think, which at our worst, I mean, sometimes we wind up like misinterpreting what other people are saying, or we wind up putting words in their mouths or unicorns in their mouths, as I remember one saying. Sorry, inside joke. But I think at our best, what the show has to offer is a real effort to make a conversation and meet halfway, and if not come to an agreement, then at least trying to understand what other people with wildly different points of view are saying, and have a fair discussion about what they actually believe, rather than what one side says the other side believes. Would you guys?
Oh yeah,
say?
Yeah.
One thing I learned through doing the show, and I still have to this day, is I learned to be very careful and precise with my language.
Absolutely.
And the words are very carefully chosen. And some of it's just by habit, and some of it is not. But yeah, having that from the debate side and knowing that people are going to misconstrue things, or they're going to read into it incorrectly if you use the wrong word or something like that. I'm careful with my word choice.
Right. Tracie, do you feel like your communication style changed or evolved in some way from being on the show for so many years?
I don't know. Not too much. I have, my degree included a lot of communication studies, and so I think I was very informed and open about communication even when I started. And so I know I took some heat for telling a call. I thought his call was not relevant. And so I was like, okay, maybe one thing I can take from that is that we will allow the callers to express their points so that I can then make a demonstration of the irrelevancy rather than just simply assert it and then not want to take the call, and then people don't understand why I would make that assessment so early on. But it's like, I think a lot of times when you've done this for a while, you get the idea of what a call is and where it can go, and immediately when you hear the person laying out their topic, you get this concept of the branches where, okay, it can go this way, this way, this way, this way, and none of those are relevant. And so when somebody else
heard
thinks,
it all before.
Yeah, and so when there's this idea that, no, wait, that caller might have, and it's like, no, believe me, I know where this could go. And so, but I do think that because there were, a number of people who didn't understand I made that assessment, that it would be important in the future to sort of go down the path with the caller, even if it takes a few minutes to kind of say, and why do you feel that this is, a good point or a relevant point?
Yeah. I guess when I think about it, one of the pitfalls of having done this for a long time is that you pretty much know a lot of the arguments in a lot of detail, but the person who's calling you and also the people who are listening haven't necessarily been listening for a full 20 years of the show.
Yeah.
And so if you just say, okay, here's what you're going to say and here's what's wrong with it, the audience can just think you're kind of an arrogant jerk, which, believe me, I read criticism that people have about me personally, and I take it seriously. And so there are ways in which getting feedback on my style has made me kind of a hopefully a gentler and more giving conversationalist in a lot of arenas.
Yeah, I think I've been on with Matt, and he's very perceptive about where a call will go. And so he would jump way ahead, many steps ahead with the caller and say, this doesn't work because of this. And I would be thinking, why are you even going there? And then after he and the caller would go back and forth a couple times, I'd be like, wow, you saved us like a good 10 minutes that it would have taken me to get to this point because I did not understand that's where they were going.
Yeah.
Yeah, Matt's very good at that. As far as styles go, I feel like this whole thing's been a big learning experience for me, and I'm learning and growing all the time. And I think I used to paint with maybe too broad a brush and learn not to do that. And if you bring new material, sometimes it works great, and sometimes it's a little bit of a bomb. And Matt's always happy to point out when it's a bomb, and that's okay.
Well, I mean, I've heard that. I have no experience in this, but I've heard from a lot of stand-up comedians that creating a set is sort of a give and take process with the audience, and they're going to flay you and let you know if you're doing something bad, but that is
part of the
helpful
fun.
to teaching you. We just okay. So we a few minutes ago we saw a blooper reel, basically. And I think three of us here have actually been in the host seat, having to make the decisions about what to do with the caller. What do you do when you think, or what did you do when you thought something might be a prank? Or how did you react or deal with it? Or did you let it influence you at all?
I honestly don't remember a whole lot of prank calls. I mean,
you were in the early days where everything was great.
I do, and I was on with you.
Yeah, I mean there were a few, but I don't know. I guess I brushed them off as quickly as I tried to. As soon as you notice a prank, okay, click, and our next caller is John on line 3.
Right.
I didn't try and give him.
Yeah, I remember watching you. You didn't give them very much attention, and that may have been frustrating for the prank callers. Maybe. I hope so. You had one or two that thought you were really hot.
Given them too much attention, and that's why they like calling me. To this day, I'm not sure if that Scottish guy Hamish.
Yeah. I was just thinking of that
for real or not.
because you were asking how.
I am told that I'm the only one who still gives him airtime because I think he's fun.
It depends on the person, you know what I mean? Like there, in one of the clips, obviously I entertained a prank call and had a conversation with the clip with Phil Ferguson. So I understood that this person, Phil's just like, I don't think that's a real call. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not a real call. But it's funny. I mean, it had a little bit of levity to the show. It was kind of a wacky take on some, the person was, even though he was joking, he's saying there's this humorous spin that you can put on this religious restriction in a way that makes it, this would enhance your sexuality because you'd have to get more creative. And it's like, well, this is kind of funny. So we pursued that for a minute or two and then we let him go. But a lot of times that, if it's just someone calling to scream or insult or be then just hang up on them. With Hamish, the thing that I did was he was on the line at the beginning of the calls, like before the show started. Hamish was on there and identified, and how I handled that was I kept him on the line like the entire show, and then I ended the show, and he was the last caller, and we did not take the call, and I announced that I was not taking the call, that it was Hamish, and he had been on for the entire show.
Burn!
People loved it.
I mean,
I got several thank yous on the blog. So, yeah.
Actually, one of the clips that came up, I recognized as a guy named, and I'm just going to give his prank name because I know his real name and location. I'm not going to say it. He called himself Matt from Oslo.
Yeah, there was a couple.
He would call over and over again, and sometimes he would act like a straight-up creationist, and sometimes he would yell obscenities or, say, Matt is a so-and-so. And finally, I just said to him, look, man, you keep calling. What do you get out of this? And also, I hear you're a gamer. Me too. What games do you like? And I just engaged him in conversation for a while. And to my surprise, he got in touch on Twitter and responded when I trying to be kind to him. And we wound up chatting back and forth, which is how I learned his real name and location over a long period of time. And he was indeed a 16-year-old with some social weirdness. And I eventually stopped talking to him, but he didn't call the show so much anymore, so it was a success in that sense.
I think I find it a little bothersome when people start to abuse the show like that. And that's when we get these, I think Jen calls them frequent flyers, people that start calling a bit too much. And that's when I start to get the red flag that this person may not be an actual,
lonely or
personality.
Right. Because by and large, I mean, some of the people actually think they're doing us a favor because they're entertaining and interesting. Yeah. And I think almost without exception, they are not. And
they have too high of an opinion of themselves.
Yeah. And if we manage to get something funny or entertaining out of it, it's because of how we're handling it as hosts that people find it enjoyable and not because of...
Well, like the blooper, now you can tell your friends you got on the show.
Yeah, that was great.
No need to call anymore.
Really
You've done it.
Yeah. But, I mean, partly a reason why all of us do this show is because we enjoy discussion, the debate, the
honest
thinking.
Conversation.
Yeah, the having this in-depth conversation, which you don't normally get during the day. And so having that, even if it's with a prank caller, as long as they're making some kind of valid point, even if it may not
valid, but
even if it may not be entirely serious, it's still fun to explore the avenue of ridiculousness, for instance. It can still be enjoyable, even if it's not entirely truthful, I guess. Or
yeah, I'm just also afraid that it cheapens the experience of having these conversations if people are always second guessing is this guy serious, or why are you falling for this? And in that sense, I really don't like prank callers. They make the show.
Yeah, I certainly wouldn't encourage it.
Yeah, but I don't think we've ever really had.
Yeah.
I don't think we've really had that enough callers really to make it a big problem.
It's not that it's a lot of pranks. It's that you get a pranker who then starts to abuse it, and they will start to call all the time.
Yeah.
And that's when it's like, okay, this person has to stop doing this.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I can sure think of a couple of people who I recognize on site and say, hey, hang up on this guy. I don't want to talk to him.
Yeah.
Let's see. Well, so we have more clips to run.
You have a caller, though.
I thought we had a call.
Oh, shoot.
Well, wait, it's not showing.
Damn it.
We don't see it, though.
Oh, no.
No, it's okay. The studio said he was on.
Reminded me.
Oh, he
earlier.
dropped.
Nope, his light's not on.
Okay, you can call.
I'm sorry. We had Martin Wagner on the phone for a little while.
We might be able to get
Martin and Ashley were
Maybe
host and co-hosts. They were the troopers for several years.
Yeah, for a good long time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And those were big shoes to fill. You know, we went to the rotation and I think that was a big thing for us and a big benefit for our audience. We had different voices and different combinations of folks, different perspectives and interests and
different styles.
Styles.
Yeah,
for
I loved it. Like I loved watching Jeff D's shows, and he'd always be saying something like, you know, when you're a benevolent creator that also believes that you deserve to burn in hell forever. And then he'd say, how dare you? And I'm just like,
everybody remembers.
Boy, I would never be that
There's a whole fan base that just love those explosions.
I really took it to heart that, you know, the point of the show was to promote positive atheism.
You and him were kind of the spec.
Yeah, we were the
you were the bookends.
Right.
And I always wanted to, you know, I wanted to be the face of you can be an atheist and be an optimist and be a good person and you know, be enthusiastic and
fun and non-confrontational and all these good things, right?
Sorry. Would have someone call into the show and say, why do you like to eat babies and bite the heads off chickens? And I'd say, well, actually, I'm a vegan. And I love
those asparagus spears. Watch out for those.
We have tofu babies.
Well, if Martin doesn't manage to call back today, and I hope he does, but I will nag him to call into the regular show sometime because... you know, Martin's a good friend.
He got robbed. He got robbed.
Yeah, he's still. You know, we're friends on Facebook, and I follow him on Twitter, and he is just as entertaining as he always has been, just not on TV right now. You want to roll another clip, guys?
They've been good so far.
5 minutes. What?
That's fine. Yeah, do it.
Okay. Do it.
Go.
You just have to tune in and watch to see what's going to happen, because I'm joined this week by the co-presidents of the Freedom from Religion Foundation, Annie Laurie Gaylor and Dan Barker. Welcome very much.
Thank you, Matt. And have a long history of ending a lot of violations in Texas of the entanglements between church and state.
Almost all historians will tell you that the Jesus of history is not the same as the Jesus of the New Testament.
Really advancing the non-religious point of view in our society, because there are so many voices. There's a cacophony of religious extremists and liberal religionists and supernatural and paranormal voices. Free Inquiry tries to offer a rejoinder to that by offering a reasonable response to those purveyors of, I'd call it uncharitably nonsense.
And this week, Greta Christina. Yay!
It's also motivated out of compassion and a sense of justice and seeing that the world is terrible sometimes and that we want it to be, especially when you believe that this life is it. At least for me, I am much more motivated to try to make this world better, not just for me, but for other people.
You can't have a second evidence until you have a first one.
Okay, yeah, sorry.
I was able to determine that humans belong definitely in the category of apes.
Our guest today is Ray Comfort.
To be on this program, point to anything that you can say this is absolute reality. For you, the whole thing could be an illusion.
I am the way. Everything I say is true.
Yeah, okay.
So
now resurrect yourself from the dead and I'll believe you.
Mohammed Syed.
The idea that we can't criticize Islam while standing up for the civil liberties of Muslims is something that is not
envisioned. People don't understand that there's a difference between the ideas and the people. The people are great. We need to stand up for the liberties, but we still also need to talk about the problems within the ideology.
Chris Johnson, author and filmmaker of A Better Life, 100 Atheists Speak Out on Joy and Meaning in a World Without God.
Basically, I wanted to change the way we talk about atheism and talk about atheism from a positive perspective.
And with me today, I am honored to be joined by Dr. Richard Carrier.
Hello. Churches, they don't just want you to come there and sing. They want you to vote a certain way. They want you to have certain values. They want you to treat gay people a certain way, or they want you to treat women. They have certain ideology they're trying to sell.
Joining me this week, Anthony Magna Bosco.
Hello, everybody.
Yay! And there was a lot of cheering out from the people on the other side of the glass.
Hey, guys.
Your face is dark, and it's probably because that light went out. I don't know if there's anything to fix in it. But,
okay. The importance that we don't back down from when we meet people who have beliefs and say things that don't seem to be comporting with reality.
I can't sit here and say that there's not a God. And I had these, I guess, atheist-like or agnostic-like thoughts when I was younger. But too many experiences, too many things have happened to me, too many strange things. I've seen too many just overtly evil people in the world. Maybe I would like to think that man's instincts aren't capable of making people act this twisted and sick, and I'd wish it was some type of voodoo. But again, I'm just saying this universe is too massive with hundreds of billions of galaxies in the field of view for us to ever even try to fathom what truly runs it. And they've just accelerated light 300 times the speed of light. I don't know if you guys saw that.
No, that's not correct. They slowed it down.
They slowed it down.
No, go to the BBC, go to Infowars.com, and
this must be new news.
And the London Telegraph accelerated 300 times the speed of light.
They accelerated what? To light?
Yeah,
to
they
300 times?
accelerated it 300 times. And then some folks in the U.S.
I'm surprised I haven't seen this on every front page in America.
I know. Well, they're cloning embryos in Britain. They just legalized it. Nobody wants to talk about that.
Woohoo!
That's the mind control, guys.
How is cloning a human being mind control?
This is Alex Jones, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, guys, all I'm saying is
You got your own friggin' show.
What'd you say? I didn't hear you.
You got your own show, right?
I do, but the point is, I've talked to you guys in the halls up at Access before, and one of them, I think a guy in the middle joked or something like a year ago, the black helicopter religion, and I said, well, here's a Statesman article hanging on the wall where they were burning police stations in South Texas. But still, it's so outlandish, you've been preconditioned not to believe it. It's almost like a religion to scoff at that. Then I talk about the speed of light being accelerated, and you go, well, that's not true. I mean,
I'm just, that seems to me that it would be
source, dude.
Yeah, we'll check your sources on that, but it seems like it would be such a cataclysmic event that it would be, I mean, if it's on the cover of Scientific American next month, we'll, because that would be the most prominent scientific discovery ever.
That'd be huge. Can you wrap it up and give us, like, a point? What's your
Darwinism, I see the most evil type individuals in the world that seem to be very religious when they all met at the great pyramid in Giza Plateau and had fire shooting out of the ground and giant movie screens with horned beasts jumping around screaming, "We worship you, sun god," and all these world leaders were there to. This was on PBS, by the way, one channel below you. I have it on tape and I've aired clips of it. All this bizarre behavior, the globalists are completely religious. They're using this earth religion to dehumanize human life. And so you just better be aware of that if you're threatened by religions, because I'm definitely threatened by this garbage. And it's this social Darwinism that was the excuse to let people fall into the sausage machines.
All right, then.
All right, take care, gentlemen.
Take care.
Infowars.com.
Yeah.
No, see.
Social Darwinism is a misunderstanding of
people,
and misapplication of the principles of
messing with it.
Wow, Alex Jones.
Yeah.
All right.
You watch out for that guy. That's for sure.
Yeah. More people know him now than when I first saw him on public access.
Yeah, we and Alex Jones were the two shows that really sort of made it big, I think, out of Austin Cable Access.
Yeah, I mean,
which is kind of a head scratcher in a lot of ways, right?
Kind of scary.
Kind of opposites attract.
It makes you wonder about it. It's enough to kind of shake your foundations a little, sometimes. But yeah. So we have added some people here, right? We've got Denis, who's here, and
Denis
he's with
Loubet
nonprofits. I don't know if people will they even know your face?
No,
I was on it as a guest one or
2 times.
Well, this is
I barely
Denis.
recognize you today.
And then we have Jamie, who's on to represent everything that happens behind the scenes on the Atheist Experience. And so
we have some awesome folks that make the show run, and they are the real unsung heroes.
And I mention that all the time when I go and speak or something, and I tell people, I'm like, the crew is there every single week, right? Every week. So they'll be like, oh, thank you for what you do. And I'm like, yeah, I answer phones in front of a camera. But there's like an entire crew of people that work every single week. I mean, I'm coming around every month or so, showing up for a couple hours to sit and talk. But what do y'all do?
All of the other things. Unfortunately, I think my singing voice may not be good enough to actually sing their praise as well. But there's a reason why I always call Vern a sound wizard, and it's because a lot of these mics that we're using right now are new, and some of them are rented. For this specific
new
show.
for this episode, and that's amazing to me that there's always new innovations going on every single time.
Yeah. I mean, I'm going to try not to break the fourth wall too much with exactly how this situation is wired. But
So tell us what happens. So you guys, we show up. We're told to show up probably about an hour and a half hour before. You all show up when?
I mean, as early as we'd like, depending on how much spare time we'd like to have between when we finish and we start. I think Mark gets here too early for me, actually.
Holy moly.
I've just been told with my psychic earpieces, 10 a.m. Vern is here every single week. Mark is here every single week. I try every week. All of the phone calls that you've heard or received are screened. You guys know there's the description of here's this person. I know that when I've screened phones, there have been a couple of times where I'm like, I think this person might be a troll.
Exactly. Yeah, we get little hints and tips and notes from the screeners all the time.
Yeah, I try and add an extra layer of detail, but effectively every week the phone system has to be started and checked. The video, all of that has to be
probably hundreds of things, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know all of them. I'm not an expert. I may actually not be the best representative of the crew. That's why I can be spared while a show is being
The really important people are back in the group still. Yeah. They said, here, take Jamie. Totally. I think I'm amazed sometimes. I mean, even with the height, we'll have to sit at the table and they have to adjust the cameras because of who's going to be hosting and co-hosting that week, and you guys have to move closer, or you have to move over here, and can you sit up more straight, or and then everybody that's in front of the camera has to have the mic check, and then we have to make sure that we can hear ourselves. Then we have to do a call, test the phones with a caller, and I mean that's just
a small part of.
That's after we get here. Yeah, I mean that's not even the before we arrive. That's already been going on.
That's after the mics are plugged in and on, and the phone system is set up and checked. The software part of that is set up, and the software part of the video. Also, I don't know. This is sort of my style. Go back and try and figure out when we switched from using 3 cameras to use the 3 shots to 1 camera. And if you're in the audience and you can't tell, it means that the crew is doing its job incredibly well. The vast majority of it is other people, but I'm happy to sit here and smile and be the representative for a lot of people.
Soak up some adulation.
Yeah.
Well, I think that I feel like that there has to be some acknowledgement of that, because there's a lot of work that goes in, none of which I am involved in. It's really not. And people, I kind of get a little bit tired of people saying, oh, you're so humble. And it's like, no, I'm not kidding. There's people that do a lot of work, and I show up and talk. And you see me, but you don't see them and all the effort that goes into it. And sometimes I feel like the fact that people don't see it, it's almost like when people talk about the difference between mental illness and a physical illness, the idea that if you don't see it, People tend to have a hard time believing there's something wrong with you. And it's the same with this. It's like when they don't see that work, it's almost like it didn't happen or it's not important because we don't see it. And it's like, no, it's very important. There wouldn't be a show.
Yeah, and we've talked a lot about the mechanics of putting on the show, but there's a bunch of stuff that happens afterwards too. I mean, there's a whole YouTube outreach, our podcast, and Mark is starting to edit a lot of clips and make little clips and catalog them and organize them so that people can watch playlists. And there's just a huge amount of content there and a real treasure trove of good stuff. That he's mining now for these things and making it more publicly available. And watching out for copyrights is something the board does, and just all this stuff that we kind of turned into a little media, a little tiny one, but it's a big
tiny
deal.
Godless empire.
There you go.
Yeah, he does. And there's one of the things that kind of amazes me as well, because as much as I'm like, oh yeah, I can do tedious tasks, I try, but Mark has gone through playlist for all of the seasons, and then there's the playlist
it's a Herculean effort.
Yeah, that's clips from that season that are good, and that's a buttload of work.
Yeah.
Yes.
But playing on the it's the difference between a physical illness and a mental illness. You can't see it. As far as this crew goes, we are definitely the mental illness talent here. And as far as particularly the people with talents, they are like the schizophrenia or bipolar of talents here.
Yeah. And we're just like the broken legs with the extended fracture that you just can't miss.
And hopefully the show will be fun for everybody. The point is that atheists like to have fun too.
Greetings to you, my friends, and welcome to another dark and gloomy edition of the Atheist Experience. I am the Chief Mortician, Russell Glasser, and with me today is Don Baker.
It's May 22nd, 2011, according to the regular calendar, but I like to think of it as PA0, the beginning of the first post-apocalyptic century. I've been trying to get a hold of Martin on long-range walkie-talkie. We're having some problems, I think, with communication in Austin and problems with some studio issues happening. I don't know what's going on with communications, and there's some problems here on the roads, too. I don't know what you might be experiencing in your areas. I know that people are driving like maniacs here. I actually saw somebody pull up to a stop sign and just slow down and roll through like they didn't actually stop. And I've also seen several people that were changing lanes and not using turn signals. So it's kind of scary. It was a little bit scary driving into the studio. People are starting to freak out and panic, I think. And like I said, I can't get a hold of Martin, and my cell phone service isn't working. He hasn't shown up, and I hope he's okay. I know he posted yesterday, so I'm fairly certain that he's still left behind with the rest of us. But I figure I might as well just go ahead. I'm just going to go ahead with the announcements and try to hold it together, waiting for, I'm sure he'll show up. And I should also mention that after the show, normally we do an after-show dinner at El Arroyo, and I think the one tonight is probably going to be a meeting to try to figure out how we're going to coordinate and organize this post-apocalypse and survive the tribulation. We'll be commiserating the fact that we're all actually left behind. I'm really starting to...
I made it!
Oh my God. Martin. I'm so happy to see you. I was really starting to freak out. Oh my gosh. You're okay.
Yeah, I'm fine.
You're okay.
But somehow we're not exactly sure.
All right. Oh, good.
Yeah.
Good. So, yeah, you look like, you were so prepared. So how was your drive in?
Fine. I thought there'd be more zombies, though.
Yeah, I did see evidence of raptured people. There was a shoe on the side of I-35. I don't know if you saw that.
Yeah, no.
But,
Well, that's at least a sign. Good, okay. So we know that we're not,
Yeah, there was a few people that made it to the studio. Brave people that were willing to come out and risk it. Yeah.
The freeway coming up here was clear. That never happens.
Which road did you take?
35.
You did?
Yes.
Weird.
Yeah. I mean, literally, like, no one on it. Well, there were, except all the other cars.
Well, yeah, I saw the other cars. And one thing I did notice, though, was not one with a Jesus fish. Did you happen to catch that? Did you see any Jesus fish on your way up here?
No, actually.
There you go.
But, well, I think we're just going to have to,
Yeah, hold it together.
It is the apocalypse, after all. We'll do what we can, people, to survive, and all of you, don't worry, it's...
With me today is Jeff D, looking marvelous.
Hi, Russell. Yes, in fact, I am here in drag, looking way better than you thought I was going to.
Avast me hearties, and be welcome to another seafaring episode of the Atheist Experience. I be your host, Captain Russell Glasser, and here with me is the scurviest scallywag ever to hoist a sail, Grim Martin Wagnerbeard.
Arr, and stuff.
Today be Sunday on the 19th day of September, and it also happened to be International Talk Like a Pirate Day. Shiver me timbers! This be a live call-in public access atheist television show based in the landlocked city of Austin, Texas. We take calls from scalawags all across the 7 seas. The Atheist Experience be sponsored by the Atheist Community of Austin, a non-profit educational organization promoting positive atheism and the separation of church and state.
And rum!
Aye!
Right, and I'm ignoring Denis. Now, we brought you in, and we haven't had a conversation with you yet. And
Yes,
now your main focus has been nonprofits, but you
Yeah,
said
I'm the
you've been
annoying
on...
voice at the intro.
Oh, no.
Go.
You're the voice everybody's like, wow, he's got that smooth voice going on. You do fantastic. I love your voiceovers.
Oh, well, thanks.
Yeah.
I script those out about an hour before the show.
I've seen you doing it.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Do you come up with the idea only an hour before the show? Or?
Well, lately, some listeners have sent in lists of ideas for intro treatments, and I've looked through that and mined that for stuff. For the longest time, I was trying to keep it to, logical fallacies. Stating the intro in a form of a logical fallacy, and I rapidly ran out of those.
I mean, I don't know. There's a lot of them.
Yeah,
there's a lot, but they get reused.
I mean, I've been on so many shows. I had no idea how many, because I'm looking at a list of intros that I've done, and I just list them by number, and I'm on like 89 now, and that's just a portion of all the stuff. So yeah,
getting to be old men here, old women, and old women too.
I used to.
So wait, am I an old man or an old woman?
Stuff like that. I can't remember it. Videos. I used to do the DVDs, and I think that was kind of the first tiny dipping our toe into the digital world.
Yeah, we're still doing products.
It was just live streaming at the time, and there were some people who had moved away and things like that. Still wanted to be able to see the show, but there was no way of doing that. So every day after the show, I would go home and record the whole thing on the computer and digitize the whole show. And then, again, no way to get it on the internet or anything like that. So exactly, pretty much. So I basically take the audio of the entire show and just make it an MP3. And every month I would send out a CD to subscribers, and they'd have the entire audio of all the shows. And then I'd make QuickTime clips of some of the better callers and have that as separate movie file. And then I'd have, sometimes people did.
So kudos. That was some of the early work on doing products and stuff.
Yeah, trying to get us out there.
And now we have a real serious archive, both online and in the studio here.
Yeah.
And in the cloud.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's amazing how it's almost like an entirely, I don't know how to describe it, but it's like an entirely different show once it hit the internet, once it wasn't just on public access, and once we started with the live streaming, it's like
that was a big event for us.
Changed. It was so, everything became
a much
different.
bigger audience. We had a much more atheist audience.
Right.
And it changed our callers quite a bit.
Sometimes you'd do a show before we went on the internet. You'd sit and do a show. Sometimes maybe you wouldn't even get any calls.
Well, yeah, we were kind of iffy visible on cable access.
Right.
A lot of folks, they changed the channel lineups. A lot harder to find.
But you'd sit there and think, are we going to get callers? Oh, we got a call,
There were certain weeks that we just were not going to get calls.
Right.
Super Bowl weekend. We're not going to get any calls this week.
Yeah.
So make sure we come with content prepared, because that's all we're going to get. And I remember, I used to do the show, it was all local stuff, and some days you get a lot of calls, some days you don't get any. And then I wasn't coming for a while, and I came back and I saw one of the shows in the studio, and I think there were like 2 local calls that came in. And then there were like 5 or 6 from like London and Australia.
Norway.
And New World for us.
Around the world. And it's like, whoa, what did I miss? We're a local, cable access show in Austin.
Right.
And they're now watching in New Delhi.
But then, like when the show recently, when the phones went down and we couldn't get calls, the studio actually gleaned questions and comments from the live feed and brought in a list so that we could answer questions from the feed, because it was like as a method of interacting with the audience, which is something we wouldn't have had prior to the internet.
That was actually you were hosting on that show with a guest. That was actually the getting them from the calls that fell to me, because I didn't have the technical to try and fix the phones or keep the sound level. So the fact that the first one was a Bible passage that was a prank, that's on me, my bad.
Oh no, it was okay. I mean, we looked it up before we took.
You can always go to World News Daily or something and start reading the news, and there's lots of material.
But no, I mean, it was a good solution that would not have been possible without the internet.
Oh yeah.
And so yes, we had more international calls. We had more tools available because of the connection that was outside of just the phones. We had a huge, larger audience. We've got
a big fan base now.
For a while, we were getting predominantly atheist calls, whereas when you look at the show before the internet, we got a lot more theist callers. In fact, that was early.
Yeah, that was scary for me, because our bread and butter was calls with theists, right?
Yeah.
And if we didn't have that, what were we going to do?
I think
it's a debate show.
Well, I mean, I guess for me, part of what I thought was, for a while I had that attitude, and then I kind of thought, we have this different audience now, and if the show morphs into something else dynamically, but if we're still flooded with calls every week from an atheist audience, it's something, there's a need there.
There's a need, yeah.
So I felt like if it may turn out to become something that we didn't initially plan, it might be a change that we just have to adjust to. And I didn't know where it would go. I had no idea, but I just felt confident that as long as we were getting flooded with phone calls, it meant that there was some benefit or some value to the program that people were perceiving. And so I felt at least confident with that, even if I didn't know where it was going.
I'm thinking about, the times I first came into the Atheist Experience to either watch the show or actually participate occasionally.
Sure.
I remember the cavernous soundstage.
Yeah, the
this big concrete room.
Yeah.
Somehow fill, have the cameras there, 2 big honking cameras.
Yeah.
And
we'd be off in the one little tiny corner of it, because that's all we needed.
It's like a real television show.
Well, it was a huge studio. I mean, and that's the other thing. Well, I mean, that's the other thing that's kind of an irony, is that the show is now got outreach and a much smaller studio. And before, when we had almost no outreach, we had this gargantuan
we're
studio.
sitting in a 10-foot by 10-foot room.
But we do so much more with it.
Don't spoil the magic.
The beauty of it, I think,
huge.
Well, what we wanted was more control over the show. And I think, we did that. We absolutely were able to then take in the show, take advice from the people that were back there producing the content. And I mean, responsible for the technical aspects of producing the content, we're able to say, here's what would make our lives easier. Here's what would allow you to do the things you want to do with the phones. This would allow us, and
that's
so
after this shot,
threw a little money at a few
we
things.
Want on the green screen.
Green screen.
The phone system has been a big step forward for us. Green screen, a lot of the video editing has been very sophisticated.
I mean, that's how we got Vern. Is basically he was listening. He's an avid fan, still is, and he was listening. And he eventually just went, "Oh my God, the audio quality." And so he showed
I can't
us.
stand it.
Yeah, effectively. Oh, there it is.
There, we're in
That's
Austin.
a real window into Austin. That's where we are.
I love that.
There you go.
Credit for asking for that. Because I said I wanted the scape, and and our producer Mark was just like, "I would love to put that scape behind the show," and I said, "Please do." So we tried it. People loved it, and I'm getting some signals here, and I don't know what, because I think we have another clip, but I'm not getting messages from the studio. So is that what we
Whatever
want?
you want. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, definitely some humor. So they're telling me there's some funny clips that we want to throw in to get some laughs here for past shows.
Make them laugh.
Oh, hi, atheists. This is the Atheist Experience. With me today is Jeff D.
Hi, everybody. It's going to be a silly show today. Everybody in the studio is in a silly mood.
We've got a buttload of atheists online.
Simple and sharp. I'm an atheist, by the way. I was always an atheist since I was born. I immigrated to America from India, to be quite frank. And, to my surprise, I never knew America was so indulged or dwell in theocracy so deeply.
Surprise!
Let's get this party started. Arthur, how you doing?
Listen, man, I got a bone to pick with y'all.
With both of us, or all?
A monkey up close?
Have we ever seen a monkey up close?
Like an orangutan. You telling me, a highly evolved being, you telling that monkey crawled out of some kind of lake of fire, and all of a sudden now I'm walking around here in Texas? You telling me?
Hang on.
No, sir.
First of all, I'm not convinced you are a highly evolved
I'm
being.
here.
No, you're on hold here. I'm not convinced you are a highly evolved being.
I think he's making an excellent display for his
An
point of view.
orangutan crawling out of fire. I don't know. First of all, we're not here talking necessarily about evolutionary theory. We can. You can get good information at talkorigins.org. But exactly what was it you're talking about?
I'm telling you, saying that the good Lord JC could have anything to do with that? I am not a monkey. I'm not scratching my balls all day, picking my ass, swatting at flies. I am a human being by the grace of God, my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ of Nazareth, only child of Mary, Joseph.
The only child of Mary and Joseph. Boy, I'm sure
Joseph.
everybody who actually,
I feel bad for you when the devil's raping you in the ass when you're.
I'm afraid we have to cut him off when he starts cussing.
Jesus
I have
loves you.
I have a pretty low opinion of a lot of religious people, and even I think that guy was probably a fake.
Yeah.
Oh well.
Unfortunately, if he wasn't a fake, I mean, I don't expect everybody to be a theologist or even familiar with all the little nuances of their belief. But if you're somebody who's going to claim to be a Christian, you should probably know that it's not wise to run around saying that Jesus was the son of Mary and Joseph, because you've eliminated God as the father of Jesus right off the bat. But hey, it's your religion, and if you enjoy that, good for you.
So if you clone yourself and then you have sex with yourself, is that incest or masturbation? I just thought I'd throw that out there.
Jen wins the show. That's the best comment ever. It's a good question. I'll be thinking about that for weeks. Feel free to email us, tv@atheist-community.org, with your answers to that poser. If you clone yourself and have sex with yourself, is it incest or masturbation? It's got to be different atoms, so I think I'd go with incest. Okay. I think masturbation includes the idea it's just me, and if I clone myself, that's me and my clone.
Yeah.
Me and my clone.
Once there was a preacher by the name of Ted Haggard who stumbled from the path, or you might even say staggered. He was 1 in a million, or more aptly 1 in 10. Some folks say he put the men in amen. He preached the gospel message of intolerance and self-loathing, and traveled on his wayward way betraying his betrothing. He was the soul of piety and no one doubted him, until he hired a gigolo and used a pseudonym. So he humbly went to counseling, and then 3 weeks later he's born again. Because Ted Haggard is completely heterosexual. Ted Haggard is completely heterosexual.
The scientists are huge partiers. Those guys, they're crazy.
That's right.
As soon as they take those pocket protectors out, they get down.
Exactly. You don't know what they got in those beakers.
I know. They're brewing up.
Stuff we could only dream of.
Well, here's the thing, Lazarus. I mean, if that guy died, you know, they're holding a funeral service for him, and now he's alive. I mean, to lie about. I mean, did Lazarus exist? Because if he existed,
I don't know. You know, I came back from the dead last month.
Did people see this at your funeral? Did anyone write about this?
Oh, sure, lots of people. 500 people, actually. They wrote it down privately, but you know.
I wasn't one of them, but I completely believe Russell.
You said those people aren't, what do you call it, identified in the Bible, and I think they are. I'm not looking at it right now, but it says like who they are. I mean, you would say the same thing.
Really? There's like a list of, there's a directory?
I have totally never seen that.
Of names? I have not seen that.
Not a list of names, but a name of a community. Like if I said like, you know, 500 people in Manhattan or whatever.
Okay, well, actually, I was in Manhattan, and 500 people in Manhattan saw me.
Well, I'm here. That didn't happen.
No, he meant the other Manhattan.
Oh, okay.
No, it was Manhattan, New York. Sorry.
Yeah. You see, the thing is...
but you seem pretty skeptical of what I'm saying now, and I wonder why, because what reason would I have to lie to you?
Because I think ultimately it's like how you're looking at X-Men and you look at the mutant powers. I think that would be kind of like a lame power.
A lame power.
So
hang on. No, fucking no. First of all, you're claiming to have a power
clairvoyance
to predict the future. And your reason for not having it tested is that you think it might be a lame power? Given the current state of the universe in which we live, it would be the most impressive power that has ever been confirmed. That would be like, like one of the weaker superheroes, like, I don't know, Aquaman, saying, I can breathe underwater, but I don't want it to get tested. I can talk to the animals, but I don't want to get tested, because it would be a weak-ass superpower. We can agree with him that it's weak in comparison to everybody else that he runs with. But if there's somebody out there right now on Earth who can breathe water and talk to animals and they're not getting tested, holy crap, they're awesome. Aquaman is only awesome in the real world.
Rawl in Beaumont?
Yes,
Hey.
Tracie, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you fine.
Is it Rawl or Raul?
No, it says Rawl.
No, it's
Rawl.
Nolo, actually.
Nolo?
Okay.
What's
That's
Rawl?
That's not my real name, though, actually. I'm not at the liberty to give you my real name, to be honest, because of my obligation.
Then what difference does it make what we call
That's one of my videos.
Get my fake name right. Okay.
So you believe in the Big Bang Theory, huh?
I believe that the Big Bang Theory is the most reliable scientific explanation for origins that we have right now.
You're just a straight idiot.
Well, thanks. And then how do you explain Jesus' dying words of, why hast thou forsaken me? And the guy said that basically God borrowed Jesus and walked around in a Jesus suit for 33 years, and then just before the torture started, because God can't experience pain or suffering.
Oh, he bugged out of there.
He left. So could you imagine that there's this guy who wakes up at the age of 33 and goes, "Hey, what the hell are you guys doing
on here?
People are flaying his skin and
holy crap! Yeah.
I mean, that's just it's just silly.
To all the people that are viewing, I want to let you know we do have one more call, and it is Hamish, and I am not taking it. So you can thank me at the blog. You're welcome. Dropped. And he waited the whole show just to let you know.
So I promised the Ustream chat I would give him a shout out if.
Why?
Followers to the Catholic Church, and mind you, these pedophiles would have done what they did.
Pause. I'm going to let you finish. Pause.
But we do not.
I put you on hold in case you didn't hear that. Nobody can hear you but you right now. So you're
We
paused.
do not get rid of a necessary system.
You're still yelling into the phone.
Yeah.
Sir, I do not want to have a shouting match.
You're not having a shouting match with anybody except yourself. Your ass is on hold.
That would be most appreciated.
You don't understand. If you would pause for a second, I'm trying to explain to you that you're on hold so that I can respond to your nonsensical position here.
No, sir, no.
Wow, you don't know what hold means. I'm going to give you exactly one more chance to actually have a conversation here, which is a back and forth, and you're gone. We'll come back to more if we need to. Hey, I made a noise there. Can I play music? I can.
Shane. How does your God, how is it remotely relevant to you being nicer? Can't you do that on your own?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I can.
Useless God.
Oh, hi. Happy Easter.
Yes.
Which is what somebody at a gas station told me yesterday. And I said, oh, thanks, but, as a godless heathen, I really don't care that much about Easter.
Yeah, I only want the chocolate.
The chocolate is good. You have to, when you get the chocolate bunny rabbits, you need to bite their ears off first so they can't hear their own screaming for the rest of the thing.
Make the Yuletide gay. I missed that joke last week, so I got to do it this week. I was thrilled. I was going to be able to do a joke 2 weeks in a row with Jen and then you, and then.
Okay.
Oh well, maybe it's just not funny enough, and that's why I skipped it the first week.
Do you guys get communication from the control room in any way other than them screaming through the wall?
Yes, we do. We have this. That's what this computer is. We get the list of callers, and they can send us a out-of-band note.
But you don't know when they're going to go from a wide shot to a tight shot or anything like that.
They control all that.
Nope.
I mean, we can
I just look at
encourage
the
them.
TV and see what it's done.
We can say, hey, look at this or whatever.
And I honestly would hate to wear a little earpiece where they're going, and we're going to dawn in 3, 2, especially if I'm talking.
Oh yeah.
That
I
pisses
can't
me
believe
off.
you guys can talk and look at yourself while you're doing it.
Well, my problem is I look at myself too much. I don't look at the camera. I look at the TV.
Your problem is you look at what you've written too much
Yeah,
and not
that
look
too.
at the camera.
That too.
If you look at yourself, that'd be less of a problem because then you're kind of looking
Yeah, at least
at
I'm
the camera.
at least I'm looking
direction.
up. Yeah, at least I'm looking in the right direction this time.
Hey, Frank.
1 minute.
Less than a minute. My cell phone's off.
Oh, my cell phone.
Oh my gosh. Run away. 35 seconds.
Prepared.
Oh, the reason I brought that up, evidently there's a bunch of people in the chat room who know that Jen's gay, but think that there's somebody else in the show that's gay, but don't know who it is. So they've been guessing Martin and stuff. And I'm like, Don's talked about it before. How can they not know?
Let me finish. First of all, I have no reason to think you're going to change your mind because you keep demonstrating that you couldn't recognize a rational argument if it walked up wearing a t-shirt saying rational argument and smacked you about the head with a rational argument fish.
Oh my gosh.
Rational argument fish.
Wow. That's right.
Cool. New product next week.
Yes. It'd be like the Jesus fish, only rational.
Gefilte fish, yeah.
Well, let's see. During the clips, the studio told me we can end the show however we want to end the show. So we could get naked.
Ooh, that'd be fun.
We could bring in
However we
Nobody
want
wants
to
to
end
see
the show.
this anymore.
Oh, look, it looks like we have Hamish on the line. And you can just,
We're not taking that call.
You're just mean to him. I swear.
It was mean, but I feel like when people
had a
abuse
long
the show, it's mean. I feel like it's mean when people call all time with the same shtick and try to make it and like Russell said, you can't even tell if he's a prank, and nobody will even take his calls anymore except for Russell. And it's just like when you reach that point, you're abusing our program.
Right.
You are wasting our time, and so it's like if it takes a little wrist slap to kind of get you to understand the lesson.
Yep.
Then so be it.
Okay.
And
Watch out
see.
for you.
So
it takes a little wrist slap.
this is your. We'll make this the last opportunity now. So starting with Don, last opportunity to say something.
I hope we can do this another 20 years. It's been a fun ride.
I'll be old.
Already there.
Jamie.
No, I thought you were all ageless. What are you talking
Oh,
about?
I wish.
I can't think of anything else clever to say. That's
Really?
why
It doesn't even have to be clever. It can be, just about.
Well, I've said something that's not clever.
Oh, haven't we all?
No, I don't know. I feel like, yes, the appreciation for what the people do backstage is good, but I feel like sometimes you guys don't appreciate what you bring to the show because people miss that, right? Yeah, like you discussed earlier the quote that you had in the call where they ended up. If I had the ability to stop someone from raping a child, I would. That's the difference between me and your God. Right. Which is a quote that's become a meme and stays a meme because it succinctly answers a question and communicates the problem of evil. And that one in particular is sort of a line, not to offend anyone, but that's incredibly valuable, and that's why you keep getting sent the same.
Yeah.
Like, oh, this one's reversed.
Yeah,
it's
like
a different.
you said, 20 years later.
You're still here. But
Can people hear it? People can't hear you. We're hearing the studio. People can't. They just basically.
Mark just told us that he's going to cue it up after this.
Well, I thought what he was saying is that when the show was done, like after the show had ceased to exist, the meme would still go on. Like it's never going to die. Right?
That's true as well.
The clip will actually play after this
He's
show.
actually gonna play the clip.
In our
Okay.
500 hours.
And I will get the memes again.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's clear. That's the reason that the people in the booth and myself and the people that are now watching through the glass do what we do, is so that you guys can get up here and talk.
So you guys, you're atheists.
Yeah.
Do you believe in a spiritual world?
When you say I don't know if there's a God or not, you're saying that's an agnostic statement. It's saying I don't know. When you say I can't say I believe in God, well, that's an atheist statement. That's saying I don't have belief. So if you don't have the belief, then you're a non-believer. And people have a hard time with that because they tend to look at atheism as a statement of knowledge, but it's really not. So when you can't say you believe in it, you don't have the belief. So definitionally, that makes you an atheist. Now, your personal understanding of atheism may make that a little bit uncomfortable to say, because it's like, oh, wait a second, but I don't know if there's a God or not. But that's not what the question really is. It's, do you believe?
I've seen you guys show a lot, and I wanted to call in particular today. I see you're live. I've heard you guys go on and on about this, and when it comes to talking about the Bible, you guys are just practically illiterate.
Really?
I've heard what you say, and you guys really don't have any facts at all.
Like what?
Well, just like anything you've ever said today about the Bible, about anything that you've ever said about it. Besides, what I'd really like to do is someday I'm gonna come down there and punch your fat face in for Jesus. That's what I'm gonna do.
Really? Do you think that's what Jesus wants you to do? Because
yeah, definitely. He's gonna come back and he's just gonna.
Does he want me to turn the other cheek when you do that?
I don't know.
Yeah.
He's gonna be real happy.
At least we figured out who was illiterate.
Yeah, but that's not that isn't sanctioned by the state.
It's not a law, okay? We're talking about, this book advocates laws And you're saying that they're a good thing, that it's a good thing to beat somebody who committed adultery, or that it's a good thing to beat somebody.
Somebody's punished when they break a law. We have to have law and order.
Okay.
If someone breaks a law, we have to punish the people who are breaking laws. It's pretty simple.
So you support lashing and death penalty for adultery?
Yeah, the death penalty for adultery.
Wow.
What's the penalty
Okay.
today, Jenna?
I just want to thank you because you're like a billboard for atheism. What you're really asserting, and the thing that is demonstrable, is something can come from something. We don't have a nothing to see whether or not anything can come from it. So a claim that regards nothing is the useless claim. All what you're saying is we have a lot of examples of something coming from something. In fact, every example we have is something coming from something else. And I understand that. But to say that something can't come from nothing, you have to have a nothing. And I've never seen that, so I don't know what that is. No one knows. You know, if there's a question that has no verifiable answer at this point, then saying that you know, or having asserting knowledge on the topic is an absurd thing to do. I mean, you're either, I don't know how else to describe it. It's like, unless it's an outright lie, then the other option is that you believe it, in which case you're saying, no, there is no evidence and we don't know, but I'm saying it's this. And it's like, well, why am I challenging that? Because you have no reason to be saying it. I don't know is an honest answer. Making things up when you don't know is not an honest answer. The idea here is that we have three jars. We have a jar that has existent dice. We have a jar that has supernatural, transcendent dice. And we have a jar of nothing. There's nothing in this jar. And what we did last time is we just sort of mixed them all up. And then I asked Matt, which jar has the real dice?
That one.
Okay. And which jar has the supernatural transcendent dice?
I don't know.
Why not?
Because they look the same to me.
The problem with these is that if you have something that you define as something that has no measurable manifestation, and we don't know how to measure it, and there's nothing that you can provide that is how we identify it from nothing, how do you identify it from nothing? It's the same as nothing until you can find a way to demonstrate that it's something.
I would ask God to tell me which of those has this, but unfortunately that spoon is still a spoon.
In an atheistic world, though, why does truth matter so much to you?
Why wouldn't it matter?
It's all that you've got.
Why wouldn't it matter? It's all there is. See, here's the thing. My position of wanting to believe as many true things and as few false things as possible is about making sure that my internal model of reality that lives in my brain matches the actual reality that I inhabit as closely as possible. Because the decisions that I make are going to take place within that reality that I experience. And so if my internal model differs widely from reality, I'm going to make bad decisions that are going to be harmful to myself and others. And I'd rather make good decisions.
Even in a world without any future except extinction, truth doesn't matter because it's very practical. You're saying there's a practical aspect.
What difference does the future make? What difference does whether or not I'm going to die make? It's like saying you shouldn't eat your lunch because you're just going to poop it out later. Well, it mattered at the time.
Yeah, and the fact is, I mean, like, I bought a house, right? And we had somebody come in and do an inspection, a home inspection, right? I mean, I don't want to spend a lot of my hard-earned resources on a house that has some major flaw and find out about it after I've committed to it and signed all the paperwork. I mean, there's a reason why you want to know what's actually going on every single day. Your life depends on understanding what actually is happening, not some fantasy.
Know what's true, and you could still lie.
People lie.
People lie, and sometimes it's beneficial. So what?
So there's no real penalty necessarily for lying in certain situations, whereas in theism there is that last accounting before the supreme being.
If you ask forgiveness, though, you get off the hook for everything, including child molestation.
Yeah, you could rape, pillage, and murder, and as long as you, at the end of your life, fulfill the obligations for eternal reward, you get. So don't pretend like you believe in some actual justice system. Christianity, in particular, and most of the other religions that offer some sort of escape clause, are not justice. It's capriciousness.
Yeah,
it's God picking and choosing who he wants to hang out with him on criteria that is not based on what people do. if we were actually talking about a system where people actually got what they deserved, and I don't even know what that is, what that means. What do you deserve?
There's nothing that happens. I mean, this world, so much stuff happens that nobody could possibly ever deserve.
Yeah.
So why is God so immoral? First of all, why is God so immoral?
I don't know. Why don't you ask him?
Yeah, first of all,
I would love to know why he's so freaking immoral.
I don't think that God exists, but if we're talking about the God character in the Bible,
Right.
as God is represented,
As he's written, it's horrible.
You know, it's a pretty horrible, jealous, angry being that advocates slavery. I don't know why he's that way. Maybe he's
I
just
said
a
to
dick.
somebody earlier today that you either have a God who sends child rapists to rape children, or you have a God who simply watches it and says, when you're done, I'm going to punish you.
Does child rapism make you mad, Matt? I mean, do you hear about that and get angry? Yes or no?
What?
Do you get angry when you hear about a child rapist?
Yes.
Well, so why shouldn't God get mad when he hears about evil in this world? You tell me that.
If there was a God and he heard about evil in this world, I think he should get
Well,
mad.
here's the thing, though.
What the hell's that got to do with anything?
If I were in a situation where I could stop a child rapist, I would. That's the difference between me and your God.
Yeah.
Hosts and co-hosts on the show come and go, and have come and gone. And this 20-year anniversary is a really good example of how many people have come and gone that have been associated with the show. If any one of us were to leave, the show would continue. There would be a new person put on. It would just go on as a with a little bit of a different voice.
Get a life of its own.
It is the show that matters, not the people. And I think that's a real important takeaway, that don't get too attached to personalities on the program. It's about the content, and there's a lot of people that put that come together, put that content out. It is not about personalities, and it should never be that, and I hope it never becomes that. And I actually get disappointed when some people kind of receive it in that way.
A little too fan conscious.
Yeah.
You're not a big fan of
Fans.
You like fans, but
I like people that appreciate the effort,
show.
and what it does.
The fawning is a bit much.
Right. But I
don't get any of that.
I don't like.
Tracie gets it, but
I don't like when it becomes like cult of personality. That's not what it should be. I mean, it almost reminds me of that film Kumare, where he's trying the philosophy of he's a guru that tells people to be their own guru. Right? Like that's his message.
All leaders are fakers.
Yeah.
And I'm the biggest faker of all. And he's actually pretending to be
Yes. And it's kind of amazing. I mean, I feel like what the show, for me anyway, as an ex-conservative Christian, is about getting people out of that idea of of aggrandizing a personality, of worshiping something or exalting something in some way. And it doesn't have to be to the level of a god. Just looking at other people and thinking they're better than yourself in a real human value way, to me, relating to the self. So people should see themselves as more, I mean, yes, we all have different capabilities, but in the end, we're all human beings, and we do have an equal value. And that's one of the things I like about living in a country where, at least theoretically, we are told that the ideal should be to strive for equality, no matter what your capacity, no matter what no matter what you're born into. And when I see people lose sight of that and say things about like looking up to somebody, or they put you on a pedestal in some way, or they use language that is like puts somebody here and someone there, I get really disappointed. That's what religion does to people. That's what religion teaches you. And when you get out of that, you should work very hard to get away from that idea that someone's telling you something, or that you need to listen to someone else, or that someone is so much smarter that you should just do what they say, or just believe whatever they say.
Make up your own mind, be your own person.
Yes, absolutely.
And you can trust that because Tracie said it.
Right.
But Tracie, what if they're rich and famous?
And so here's your opportunity.
Yeah, going kind of off what you were saying about how many hosts and co-hosts we've had over the years and stuff like that, it's never been anything where we've run auditions and had people come in and try out for the spot. I mean, try out, come on as a guest.
It's a great point.
If you just want to do something. I remember Matt even coming on. It was when I was hosting the show, and he was a caller. He called in. We had I can't even remember now, but he ended up coming to the after dinner show. It was at Chili at the time, so he sat down with us, and we had a good chat. It was a lot of fun. He started coming to the show, helping out, doing prep and things like that, setting up. And then one day, Jeff didn't show up as a co-host that day for whatever, some cancellation. I'm hosting. Matt, you want to be on today? Sure. Take a seat. Get mic'd up. We're on in 30 seconds.
Well, to be fair, he had a topic in his pocket that he had prepared for just such an occurrence. So kudos for preparation too.
I actually love that point. I'm glad you're making it. And one of the things that I've been confronted with at some of the events and dinners and things are people coming up to me and saying, "Well, how would I get on the show?"
Ask.
And well, not just not ask. I usually say first get involved. So the first thing you're going to want to do is join the group, because you can never be on the show unless you're a member. So you need to have a membership with ACA. Then start volunteering and show that you have something to offer. You know, like I came to the group saying I have this cartoon that I'm working on that I've been drawing and that I want to pursue, and what does anybody think of this? And I go, so you have to kind of, and like with Matt, he was serving on the board of directors. He was taking on a lot of tasks that people didn't want to do. I think a lot of people see this idea of, Matt as this person that was hosting the show, and he's this big atheist name, and they don't get the behind the scenes of all the years that he worked so hard as a volunteer, putting in hours. Not just doing the show before anybody knew what it was, but also being on the board and even serving as president for several years, I think it was. And that entailed, like I say, taking on a lot of tasks that no one else wanted to do. I mean, we have like several people usually on the board that work very hard to for a larger group that we don't get a lot of support from the larger group. I mean, it's the people that are involved on the board, it's a lot of work. And they do a lot of that. And I think sometimes people don't understand that Matt just didn't step on to a host role on a streaming show that had like a big, audience. He worked super hard.
Yeah. Let me add to that. One of the other ways that Matt has paid his dues, and a lot of folks in this room have done so also, but to him to a larger extent, is he's done just a huge amount of online debating with folks and this interaction, and you become very practiced over time, and you hear the arguments, and you know how to kind of lead these arguments to a success. And I think that he has really paid his dues there. I know Tracie, you and Denis, and a lot of the other folks have done a lot in that respect. But that's a big part of, I think, being an atheist, being a public atheist.
Yeah, but I think to Ashley's point about not having interviews or not having auditions, I mean, for example, I know that John Iacoletti's background and for how he got on the show, he was on the crew for a while, for a long time. And then what happened was we had a slot and there was some discussion about it, and John stepped forward and he said, "Hey, I've put in a lot of time, a lot of effort, opportunity." And we were like, "That's fair." Give the man an opportunity, and so now he co-hosts. And
he's a sweetheart.
So, but the point is, it's not just about stepping in and saying, "I would like to be in front of the camera and do the show." It's like I think people don't see it because it's that invisible part. But everybody up here is putting in hours, has put in hours, has devoted themselves, has worked, has manned booths at Pride Fest, has and like done all these things to serve in ACA for a long time, not just standing here doing the hosting or the co-hosting.
I had to climb that wheeled ladder in the studio and point the light 10 minutes until it's shown on just stage just right.
Quite a bit of an art to that.
Yeah.
Before they said, sure, you want
surprisingly,
Anybody that thinks that you just come in and say, "Hi, I'm Jane or Joe or whoever, and I'm just going to sit in the seat," and it's like, no, you have to show the dedication that other people have shown to get into the.
Everybody knows the atheism. Most people also know the Austin, but only very few people realize that there's the community. Yeah. And that's what this is.
It is, and it's work.
Yeah.
And so, Denis, here's your opportunity.
Well, what surprises me is the depth of that we have on the listeners or viewers. They'll come out with, you made me feel less alone. I thought I was the only atheist, and then I saw your program. And it's like, whoa, it's like, should I feel responsible for something? It's pretty surprising.
Okay. So we're going to roll out of here, but I do want to just respond to that really quickly because I think that's an excellent point as well. People will ask me sometimes about my experience and that sort of connection. What I find is that atheists, like myself, sometimes we take, I guess, for granted the amount of atheist community that we have, because we have such a great community here in Austin, and there are areas where people are far more isolated, and I find that the people who are most touched are generally the people who don't have that community where they are, or they're surrounded by communities that are especially conservative, and so it is very important for them to see the outreach.
People who are alone and afraid of being outed and things like that.
And it's hard sometimes for me to relate to that, living where I do and being involved in this like I am with all these great people.
Yep.
All right, so everybody that's up here, I want to thank all the people that were up here previously that aren't here now. I want to thank the crew, and I want to thank the audience and the viewers and just everybody involved with the success of this program. We're just so grateful and humbled, I think, for where we've come in the last 20 years. It's just been an awesome ride from beginning to end. Thanks to all the people that had the idea, the inception of the program, to actually even start this so many years ago. It's amazing.
Wow.
I think, are we still on?
I think we are officially.
Okay,
so.
if we're still on, I am doing a very bad job hosting here. Thank you to the crew. We're going to dinner.
Where you're at, flushy dogs. We think that you know where you're flushy dogs. There you go. No. You're knocking on to all you guys people. How lovely! How lovely!
Well, you got cut off.
Who the Freedom Report is.
Oh, awkward, clumsy show. Oh, well.
It was okay. It was just... Okay.
Phew.
Yeah, one of the first, I guess the theme of this show is there are a lot of people who just don't really know about what they're dismissive of, like the Big Bang.
Yeah.
Things like that. They just have these sort of comical, simplistic ideas of them. That's what they're dismissive of. It's dismissive of. I guess that's what it is. But it's something to work on.
Okay then. That was a good show. Celebrate by eating, or? Yes, we should celebrate by eating. Okay.
I have to
Got the lots of callers. Very good.
Oh, thank
Did
you.
you in fact start the tape before the?
Yes, it's still running as a matter of fact.
Oh.
Did you get the? We can hear the music would not come on. Shit. So I just wasted a next CD. Came on the beginning. What? 10 seconds.
Wasted a blank CD.
Tape there.
Oh, I see. The CD did not work.
Stand and deliver and lean on me. Oh, sweet. Thanks. Thanks a lot.
See, we just bought some DVDs, The New Bedazzled and A Fish Called Wanda.
New Bedazzled.
They took out all the New Bedazzled, and I saw the old Bedazzled on like USA or something, and I wasn't that impressed.
They took out all the religion commentary from the old one. Is what I heard. I haven't actually seen the new one.
The old one, yeah, but the old one wasn't as comedic.
Huh. Okay.
No, he didn't screen that in movie night. Like we had it set up for.
That's a great idea. Are you going to actually do the movie night? I mean, you were talking about it.
I'm pretty sure we are. I don't know when.
All right.
A movie night? Yeah. Are we got the Duke dance right? What? Oh, I don't know. Maybe.
Okay, no, I've changed my mind. I'm not taking that guy seriously.
What guy?
They got that called to say we were bad representatives. No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. We need to say what needs to be said. He's not going to buy it. He is one of those atheists terrified of a backlash against by Christians.
Yeah, maybe.
Well, crud. Yeah.
Anything else in the pole? Let me move on this.
Well, hello, Joe.